Chapter 41, Murderous Glare. However, her arrogant and superior look really made people feel disgusted, from the bottom of their hearts. As soon as Li Xiangqin finished speaking, the greasy man continued. His words were crude, but his reasoning was correct. I make millions a year, and including all my investments, my annual income is nearly 10 million. So, do you poor people at the bottom of the social ladder think you deserve an apology from me? His words were full of superiority. The meaning of his words revealed that he and Yi Wuliang and Auntie Run were completely not from the same class. Listening to their words, Auntie Run's face became extremely ugly, and her body began to tremble with anger. In contrast, Yi Wuliang was not angry, but instead looked at the greasy man and couldn't help but laugh out loud. The greasy man frowned. What are you laughing at? What do you mean? Ha, what am I laughing at? I'm laughing at you, idiot. Yi Wuliang said indifferently, and then looked at him with sympathetic eyes and said, Brother, you've been cuckolded countless times, and you've got a big green patch on your head. You're still showing off your superiority to me here. I really don't know what you have to show off, and you're not ashamed. As soon as he said this, the greasy man's face immediately fell. Li Xiangqin, however, looked flustered. Ah, you, what are you talking about, you little bastard? Shut up right now. Honey, he's trying to drive a wedge between us. Don't let him continue. Rip his mouth off. Li Xiangqin pointed at Yi Wuliang and yelled. Oh, what, are you afraid that I will expose the fact that you are having an affair with other men and that you are cuckolding your husband, so you are anxious to tear my mouth off? Yi Wuliang said calmly. As he spoke, Li Xiangqin's heart began to race and she panicked. Although the greasy man was a show-off, he was not a fool. He could naturally see Li Xiangqin's flustered expression. Hey, you woman, judging from your face, you have peach blossom eyes, a flirtatious brow, a mole on the corner of your mouth, and a character that is 100% fickle and addicted to infidelity. Yi Wuliang calculated and said immediately, if I'm not wrong, you just met 2 months ago, and you met at a party, right? Upon hearing this, the greasy man widened his eyes. How did you know? Can you tell fortunes? Yi Wuliang ignored him and continued. You two have known each other for 2 months, and you must have clapped together the night you met. You didn't bring an umbrella that night, and you took a little pill the last time, right? When he heard this, the greasy man was completely shocked, staring wide-eyed in shock. Yi Wuliang stretched and ignored the other person's shock, continuing. After that night, you were with Li Xiangqin, and you spent a lot of money on her. A few days later, you arranged for her to live in a house in the city center. You bought that apartment 3 years ago when you lost money in the stock market and were feeling depressed. You wandered around the antique street and luckily bought a painting for tens of thousands of dollars. You sold it for a good price and used the money to buy the apartment in the city center, right? Yi Wuliang said slowly. Boom! The greasy man's eyes were about to pop out, and he looked at Yi Wuliang with shortness of breath. You, who are you really? How did you know all this? You, did you calculate it all? You, are you not a half-immortal? He was stunned. He had never told anyone about this, after all, it was unexpected wealth, and he was worried that someone would remember it, but now Yi Wuliang had directly said it, which really surprised him. Yi Wuliang smiled, I'm not a half-immortal, I'm just good at divination, that's why I can calculate that Li Xiangqin is cheating on you, and that she often brings other men home when you're not around. He said. He stood up and patted the greasy man on the shoulder. Brother, you are really pitiful. The woman you spend money on is using your money to find other men to come home and have fun, and you have been cuckolded, but you are still in the dark and don't know. If you don't believe what I'm saying, then go home and check the neighborhood surveillance cameras or the ones in front of your house to see if Li Xiangqin is bringing men home when you're not there, and not just one. You just need to go back and check, and everything will be revealed. After Yi Wuliang finished speaking, the greasy man looked at Li Xiangqin with murderous intent in his eyes. Chapter 42, Help. Li Xiangqin, is what this little brother is saying true? While I was away, did you really bring other men home? He gritted his teeth and growled, his eyes cold and terrifying. You better tell me the truth, or else I won't let you off when I check the surveillance and find out the truth. No. Honey, he's talking nonsense. He's deliberately trying to drive a wedge between us. Don't believe him. Li Xiangqin hurriedly denied. But before she could finish her denial, she was sitting on the ground, trembling all over, looking guilty as sin. Li Xiangqin was lying on the ground, her face pale and bloodless. She was extremely guilty. The reason she was so ashamed was because Yi Wuliang's words were all accurate. Although she wanted to deny it, when she brought a man home, she never thought that she would be exposed, so she didn't avoid the surveillance cameras in the community. The surveillance cameras at her door were also treated as decorations, and she never thought about deleting them afterwards. So, now that the truth has come out, she wants to deny it, but because there is ironclad evidence there, she is ashamed and cannot control her expression. It's all a lie. Everything he said is nonsense. Don't believe him, honey. Don't believe him. If you believe him, you'll be taken in. Li Shangqin shouted in despair. However, her guilty look could not be concealed no matter what. Although the greasy man was not a good person, he was definitely not a fool to be able to struggle to earn millions of dollars a year. He looked at Li Shangqin's guilty expression and already guessed everything. Ah, you bitch, I spend money on you, buy you bags, expensive jewelry, all kinds of cosmetics, and you treat me like this, cuckold me. You bitch, I'll kill you. The greasy man roared in anger, his eyes bloodshot and his breathing rapid, like a wild boar in a frenzy. He pounced on Li Shangqin, pinned her to the ground, grabbed her hair and punched her. Li Shangqin screamed in pain. It was so miserable. Auntie Run was worried and wanted to stop it. Yi Wuliang held Auntie Run back. Auntie Run, this kind of woman doesn't deserve sympathy. It's good to let her learn a lesson so that she won't be so mean in the future. After that, he continued to cross his legs and leisurely watched the show. Auntie Run wanted to say something, but in the end she didn't say it. She just sighed deeply and fell silent. The greasy man pressed Li Shangqin to the ground and rubbed her furiously, wishing he could beat the woman to death. At this moment, a number of luxury cars suddenly appeared on the roadside. It was a convoy of luxury cars, a total of 5, and the cheapest one was worth tens of millions. The 5 cars were lined up on the side of the road. The doors opened. Zhao Linger and Zhao's father got out of the car first. The moment he saw them, Yi Wuliang couldn't help but raise his eyebrows, subconsciously thinking that this was directed at him. Grandpa, the big rascal is there. Just got off the bus. Zhao Linger immediately pointed at Yi Wuliang and shouted. Damn, big-breasted girl, in public, in front of so many people, just call me handsome, can you not call me a rascal? Don't I have a face to save? If it weren't for your big breasts, I would have to beat you up and make your butt swell up. Yi Wuliang was full of black lines, and Zhao Linger expressed her dissatisfaction by calling him a big rascal in public. In the meantime, Zhao Linger's grandfather came up to him. Little brother, we meet again. The old man said politely. Zhao Linger was not so polite, and said angrily, Big rascal, your phone is not working, and my cousin's phone is not working either. What have you done to my cousin? Upon hearing this, Yi Wuliang frowned and took out the cell phone in his pants pocket. He found that the phone had been turned off due to a lack of battery. My phone is out of battery. Yi Wuliang said with a frown. I left my phone at the office. I'm off work. I didn't want to answer the phone, so I just left it at the office. Shen Huowu's voice rang out, and before she finished speaking, she walked over holding hands with Li Qingyi. Zhao Linger had never seen Li Qingyi before, and when she saw a beauty who was in no way inferior to Shen Huowu, she was stunned. Cousin, who is this? Zhao Linger asked softly. Her name is Li Qingyi. She's my good friend. Shen Huowu said, then looked at Zhao Linger and the old man, and asked curiously, why are you here? Is something wrong? Oh, it's a matter of life and death. Grandpa Zhao took over the conversation and then whispered, young man, there is a life-saving matter that requires your help, so I have the audacity to come to you. Chapter 43, A Domineering Kiss. Help? Yi Wuliang raised his eyebrows. Old man Zhao said, young man, have you ever heard of Huangfu Ming and Huangfu Zhenghe? He spoke very quietly. And when he spoke, the bodyguards who had just gotten off the other cars had already separated the passers-by to ensure that the old man's words would not be heard by others. Only Yi Wuliang, Shen Huowu, and a few other people heard what the old man said. After hearing this, Yi Wuliang subconsciously shook his head. After all, he had been in the mountains for all these years, and he had never heard of these 2 names. Shen Huowu exclaimed, Huangfu Ming, Huangfu Zhenghe? Grandpa Zhao, are you talking about the 2 great war gods of the foreign battlefield? The two protectors of the Chinese territory, are you talking about them? God of War? Protector? Yi Wuliang looked at her curiously. Xin Huowu immediately said, the Huangfu family is a military force. Huangfu Ming is the god of war in the Chinese army. He has made countless contributions and protected the Chinese territory for decades. Huangfu Zhenghe is his son and is also the god of war in the army. He protects the territory and is the protector of the Chinese border, preventing foreign invasions. They have devoted their lives to the military and are both great heroes of the Chinese nation. It is also worth mentioning that the Huangfu family's roots are in Jiangzhou City, and they came from Jiangzhou. The Huangfu family has always been the pride of Jiangzhou. On hearing this, Yi Wuliang nodded lightly. Old Zhao sighed. Yes, it is true as Huowu said. This time I came to see you because I have something to do with the Huangfu family, or to be more precise, with Huangfu Ming, the old war god. Huangfu Ming, the old war god, was critically ill and had returned to Jiangzhou City 3 days ago. He was probably not going to live, so he was preparing to return to his roots. But Huangfu Zhenghe couldn't bear to see his father die like this, so he had already released the news and invited famous doctors from all over to come. I just got the news too. Old General Huangfu spent his whole life on the battlefield, guarding the integrity of the territory. Now he has died like this, which is a great loss to China. That's why I thought of you. Your medical skills are incredible. I think if you are willing to help, you will definitely be able to save the old general's life. As he spoke, Mr. Zhao was already in tears. Huangfu Ming was the person he admired the most. Now that he was dying, Master Zhao felt very uncomfortable, as if his heart was being cut open. Xin Huowu was also teary-eyed next to him. She had grown up listening to stories about the Huangfu family since she was a child, and now, hearing the news that the old war god was dying, she couldn't help but shed tears. She wiped her tears and gently touched Yi Wuliang with her elbow, wanting him to help. Well, since he is a hero, I will help him, and it will be considered a good deed. Okay. I've agreed to this. Now take me there. Yi Wuliang agreed after a moment's hesitation. Upon hearing this, Mr. Zhao and Xin Huowu both beamed with joy. Yi Wuliang asked the Zhao family bodyguards to stay behind. After all, today is the opening of Auntie Run's friend's food stall, so they can stay behind to support the opening, while he himself will go with Grandpa Zhao to save the person. He got into the car, and Xin Huowu and Li Qingyi also got in the car of their own accord, ready to go with him. I said, what are you two going to do? You can't cure diseases. On the way, Yi Wuliang said in a depressed tone. What, just because we don't know medicine, we can't go with you? Li Qingyi said gently, and as she spoke, she deliberately drew circles on Yi Wuliang's chest with her delicate hands. The air was filled with the fragrance of orchid as she spoke. Yes, Qingyi is right. We don't know medicine, so we can't go with you? Shen Huowu also spoke up. When she spoke, she deliberately leaned her mouth to Yi Wuliang's ear and let out a breath after she finished speaking. Yi Wuliang shuddered, and his breathing became rapid. Ah, calm down, calm down. You two are really like two little demons. If we weren't in the car, and there was a driver in front of us, I would have to execute you right there. He pushed the two women away and took a deep breath to calm himself down. Li Qingyi and Xin Huowu looked at each other. Immediately, the two women continued to tease Yi Wuliang with ill intent, their hands constantly running over his body, and Xin Huowu even placed her hand on Yi Wuliang's leg. Hu. Yi Wuliang was breathing heavily. At this time, Li Qingyi's hand was placed on Yi Wuliang's other leg and rubbed it. Yi Wuliang's breathing became heavier and heavier. If it weren't for the car, there would be a driver in the driver's seat. Yi Wuliang would definitely not be polite and would have a wave of shaking directly on the car. Finally, Yi Wuliang couldn't take it anymore when the two women deliberately played with fire. You two really think I can't do anything to you, don't you? Yi Wuliang growled. He turned around abruptly, grabbed Li Qingyi's chin directly, and then kissed her. This kiss. Overbearing and hot. Chapter 44, Jinghu Villa. Li Qingyi immediately collapsed in Yi Wuliang's arms. After a long time, their lips parted, and Li Qingyi was completely limp. Hey, now it's your turn. Yi Wuliang pounced on Shen Huowu, and as she let out a scream, he kissed her overpoweringly. A large hand took the opportunity to reach into Shen Huowu's clothes, and Shen Huowu's whole body stiffened, her face turning red as fire. The driver in the front seat was having a heart attack, his forehead was sweating profusely, and he was doing his best to control himself and not look through the rearview mirror to see what was happening behind him. But he said it was really a torture to control himself not to look. It took several minutes before Yi Wuliang let go of Shin Huowu. He wiped his mouth and smiled contentedly. Shin Huowu and Li Qingyi were both blushing, and dared not continue playing with fire. After we save the people and go home, I will teach you two a lesson and let you know how awesome I am. Yi Wuliang smiled wickedly. Upon hearing this, the two women's faces turned even redder, as if they were about to bleed. Yi Wuliang was laughing triumphantly. The previous car. Zhao Laosher and Zhao Linger were sitting in the car in front, and at the moment, they didn't know that in the car behind them, Yi Wuliang and the two women were having a sexy scene. There was no conversation along the way. The car drove on the road for half an hour and finally arrived at Qinghu Villa. This used to be a village. Several decades ago, the Huangfu family lived here, and later the surrounding area was demolished to build high-rise buildings, and the original Huangfu family house became part of Qinghu Villa. A few years ago, the Huangfu family bought Qinghu Villa and made it their private property. The place is heavily guarded, but because Huangfu Zhanghe had made it known that anyone who came to the villa to see Huangfu Meiji, no matter who they were, would be allowed to enter without any hindrance. Therefore, Yi Wuliang and his group entered the villa very smoothly. Guest room. They were brought here and waited in the luxurious reception room. After waiting for a dozen minutes, someone came in. The first person to enter the reception room was a burly middle-aged man. This person was none other than Huangpu Zhanghe, Huang Puming's only son. Next to Huangpu Zhanghe was a little fat man with a cute appearance, and behind him was an old man with white hair and beard. However, as soon as Huangfu Zhanghe entered the room, the white-haired old man frowned and immediately shouted in a cold voice. What's going on? Didn't you say a great doctor was coming? Where is the doctor? Is this a visit from a doctor or a beauty pageant? What is the meaning of this group of women? The old man's words were full of anger. The next second, his eyes coldly fixed on Mr. Zhao. If I remember correctly, you came here in the evening. You are from the Zhao family in Jiangzhou City, right? Let me ask you, what are you doing here with a group of women? The old man spoke angrily. His eyes flashed with anger as he swept them over Zhao Laosher, then over Zhao Linger, Shin Huowu, and Li Qingyi. Obviously, he was mistaken, thinking that Grandpa Zhao had not invited the doctor to cure Huangfu Mingji, but had used this excuse to deliberately bring a group of beautiful women here, trying to climb the dragon and attach to the phoenix. He thought that if the Huangfu family liked any of these stunning women, the Zhao family would immediately become rich and powerful. As the old man spoke, Huangfu Zhanghe's face also flashed with anger, and the anger in his eyes also suddenly burst into flames. My father is dying, I don't have time to mess around with you. Senior Zhao, I respect you for being in your 70s, so I'll call you senior. But don't you think? Isn't it too inappropriate for the Zhao family to play such a trick when my father is dying? As he spoke, Huangfu Zhanghe clenched his fists. Guards, escort our guests out. They are to leave Qinghu Villa and never set foot in it again. He gave the order directly and then turned to leave. Misunderstanding. Only then did Mr. Zhao realize what had happened and hurriedly tried to explain. However, before he could finish his sentence, Yi Wuliang, who was sitting there with his legs crossed, spoke up. You want us to leave? I'll tell you, if you chase us away, Huangfu Ming is dead, and no one can save him. Upon hearing this, Huangfu Zhanghe suddenly turned his head to look at Yi Wuliang, who was speaking, and stared at him with murderous intent. Kid, what are you talking about? Say it again if you have the guts. Huangfu Zhanghe was furious, his eyes shining with a sharpness like a knife. Chapter 45, Extraordinary People. Huangfu Zhanghe was furious, his eyes fierce, like a sword unsheathed, staring at Yi Wuliang with indifference. Obviously, Yi Wuliang's words had already angered him. You stare at me with your big eyes, and I'm afraid? Are you that naive? You want me to repeat what I just said, right? Okay. I'll say it again. Yi Wuliang didn't care about Huangfu Zhanghe's murderous gaze at all. He stretched and crossed his legs, and said lightly, I just said that if you drive us away, Huangfu Ming will be waiting to die, because no one in this world can save him except me. If I stay, he will live. If I leave, he will die. Confident. The victory is in the palm of my hand. Yi Wuliang said these words with complete confidence and extreme ease, and he was not the slightest bit nervous at all because he was being stared at by Huangfu Zhanghe. Huangfu Zhanghe clenched his fists and looked at Yi Wuliang with a slightly complicated look in his eyes, re-examining him in his heart. The old man with white hair snorted in anger. "Humph, what kind of person are you, daring to speak so loudly here? You dare to call yourself a doctor at such a young age? You really don't know yourself, do you? I advise you not to be so young and reckless, or you won't have a good ending." His words were cold, and his eyes were as fierce as Huangfu Zhanghe's. Afterwards, the old man with white hair shouted in a deep voice, "Guards, come in immediately and expel these ignorant people. They are not worthy of entering Qinghu Villa, nor are they worthy of—" "Wait." Yi Wuliang interrupted the old man and looked at him with amusement. "Old man, you should also be a doctor, right?" The old man looked at him coldly and did not respond. Yi Wuliang said, "On what grounds do you order us to leave? How do you know that I am not qualified to treat Huangfu Ming?" He slowly got up and walked towards Huangfu Zhanghe. As he approached, Yi Wuliang spoke directly. Huangfu Zhanghe, 45 years old, has 137 knife wounds, 17 gunshot wounds, and 102 scar wounds from various other cold and hot weapons. 8 of these wounds were fatal. The latest of these 8 fatal injuries occurred 2 years ago, and the location of the wound was in the heart. It was caused by a trident piercing the chest and injuring the heart. As he spoke, Yi Wuliang had already walked up to Huangfu Zhanghe and raised his hand to press on his chest. His finger was right on the wound that Huangfu Zhanghe had received 2 years ago. Boom! Huangfu Zhanghe was suddenly struck by lightning, and the way he looked at Yi Wuliang changed again, and his breathing became rapid. "How do you know all this?" he asked in a panic. "I can see through everything with these eyes. I can tell how many injuries you have just by looking at you, and I also know that, although you survived your last injury, 2 years have passed and your body has not recovered. If I'm not mistaken, your physical strength is not as good as before, your heart is severely damaged, and it can't supply enough blood to your body, making you feel weak all the time, and even having difficulty breathing. Am I right?" Yi Wuliang's tone was light and carefree. As soon as he finished speaking, Huangfu Zhanghe's face completely changed. "This matter is absolutely confidential. Because of his special status, his physical condition is kept secret from the public and must not be disclosed in any way. If the enemy knew that Huangfu Zhanghe was in such a condition, the deterrent effect of the military god of war on the enemy would be greatly reduced. But now, such a confidential matter," Yi Wuliang directly said, which made Huangfu Zhanghe's heart rise up in waves. Phew, phew. Huangfu Zhanghe's breathing became more and more rapid, and countless thoughts flashed through his mind. He wondered if Yi Wuliang had investigated him and was an enemy spy, but as soon as this thought came to mind, he denied it and instead believed even more in another theory in his heart. That is, the young man in front of him is indeed a great doctor. What he said was all that the doctor could observe with his eyes. If that is the case, he can't imagine how terrifying Yi Wuliang's medical skills are. He can quickly judge his physical condition so clearly and accurately just by looking and observing with his eyes. This is really terrifying. "Ha, Huangfu Zhanghe, do you still want to chase me away now? Do you still think that I can't cure Huangfu Ming and save his life?" Yi Wuliang asked directly, and shouted in a low voice. Boom! Yi Wuliang's low cry was like thunder exploding in Huangfu Zhanghe's heart, causing his burly body to tremble uncontrollably. Chapter 46, This disease is easy to treat. Huangfu Zhanghe had a complex expression on his face, and the old man with white hair next to him also had a complex expression, and even looked a little incredulous. At first, Yi Wuliang sat there slouching and speaking rudely, and they subconsciously thought that this person was not to be trusted and had no ability. But who knew that Yi Wuliang would immediately speak of Huangfu Zhanghe's physical condition, and he spoke in great detail, directly stunning them. "You saw all this? You saw all this just by looking at me with your eyes?" Huangfu Zhanghe asked incredulously. Although he was shocked, Huangfu Zhanghe was a man of many experiences, having seen all kinds of strange people and things, and knowing that there are many things in this world that cannot be explained by reason or science. Therefore, although he finds it hard to believe at the moment, but in his heart he had already decided that Yi Wuliang, who seemed unreliable, was actually a strange person. "Stop talking nonsense and take me to see Huangfu Ming immediately. If we keep stalling, people will die." Yi Wuliang did not answer him, but instead impatiently spoke up. Wait. The old man with white hair said in a low voice. Old man, do you have anything else? Yi Wuliang looked at him. I want to make sure that since you are here to treat General Huang Fuming, then these three women. He spoke slowly. He was interrupted by Yi Wuliang before he could finish his sentence. The big-breasted girl is here to watch the fun, and the other two are my wives. Why, is that not allowed? Is there any law that says a great doctor can't bring his wife along when he goes out to treat patients? Yi Wuliang said with a straight face. The old man with white hair was suddenly speechless and could not say a word. Huang Fu Zhanghe also had a twitch at the corner of his mouth and was speechless. Yes. Who says that a doctor can't bring his wife along when he goes out? If someone wants to bring his wife along, is that not allowed? Is that illegal? Okay, take me to see the patient. Are you really going to let the old man die? I can tell you. I've done some calculations, and if we delay any longer, the old man will really die. Yi Wuliang became more and more impatient. Huang Fu Zhanghe's expression suddenly became serious, and he took a deep breath and made a gesture of invitation. I apologize for the offense. Please follow me, doctor. He said, please follow me, and Yi Wuliang led Shen Houwu and Li Qingyi to follow him. Wait for me, I want to go too. Zhao Linger hurriedly said, and immediately trotted up the road to follow. Old Master Zhao was old and steady, sitting there without moving, and did not follow to see the fun. Soon, Yi Wuliang and the others arrived in a luxurious and spacious room. There were no medical equipment in the room. On the bed lay an elderly man with a thin body, the old war god Huang Fuming. Huang Fuming had no will to live. He was lying here in a deep coma, with only a breath left, completely waiting to die. Huang Fu Zhanghe did not want his father to die like this, so he spread the word and invited all the famous doctors to come. His goal was to think that there were many strange people in the folk, and maybe there were really strange people who could save Huang Fuming and save his life. Dr. Yi, please examine and diagnose my father. Huang Fu Zhanghe clasped his fists and said, if you can save my father and keep him alive, the Huang Fu family will be forever in your debt. No problem. Yi Wuliang stretched and looked at Huang Fuming nonchalantly, then said lightly, it's not a big deal. It's just poisoning. Judging from his appearance, he must have been poisoned when he was young. The toxins in his body have never been completely cleared, and as he got older, they gradually became uncontrollable and stayed in his body, so he fell into a coma from poisoning, which endangered his life. Upon hearing this, Huang Fu Zhanghe nodded emphatically. Yes, that's true. My father suffered too many injuries when he was young, and he has many hidden illnesses. Now that he is old, his body is getting weaker and weaker, and he can't suppress the toxins in his body. Little doctor, you can see all this. You are truly a doctor. Please save my father's life immediately. Huang Fu Zhanghe became excited. He deliberately did not tell Yi Wuliang about his father's condition in advance, because he wanted to test Yi Wuliang. He wanted to see how Yi Wuliang would react when he saw Huang Fuming. As a result, Yi Wuliang, who had just arrived, accurately described the situation of Huang Fuming, which made him very excited. He realized that he had really met a miracle this time, and he vaguely felt that his father's life would probably be saved. As he spoke, Huang Fu Zhanghe's whole body trembled with excitement, and his breathing became rapid. Chapter 47, 5 Minutes to Cure. At this moment, Huang Fu Zhanghe was extremely excited, his whole body trembling, and his eyes full of excitement. Calm down. Look at how excited you are, is this really necessary? I'll give you a peace of mind pill, so you can rest assured. The old general's condition can be cured in a few minutes. It's a minor problem, so you don't need to worry. Just watch from the side and see my miraculous recovery. Yi Wuliang looked at the excited Huang Fu Zhanghe and said calmly. His words were so light and carefree, as if he didn't care. It was as if the illness he was about to treat was nothing more than a cold, a fever, a headache, or a fever, and he didn't take the illness seriously at all. After hearing his words, Huang Fu Zhanghe nodded repeatedly in excitement, his eyes full of anticipation. However, the old man with white hair instantly turned pale. Kid, can you stop talking nonsense? You think you can cure it in a few minutes? Are you talking nonsense? Huang Fu Zhanghe, I think this kid is a bit unreliable. He talks nonsense all the time. Can we really trust him to treat the old general? The old man with white hair growled, his fists clenched, and his eyes were burning. Yi Wuliang frowned and looked at the old man with dissatisfaction. I said, why are you always against me? What have I done to you? I'm not against you, but your words are too ridiculous, and I have to say something. The old man said coldly, the general's health has deteriorated to the extreme, and the toxins have gradually penetrated his bones over the past 30 years. How can you say such nonsense? Why can't I question you? After saying this, the old man with white hair crossed his arms and spoke in a cold voice. I am not some nobody, you listen carefully. I am the president of the Chinese Medical Association, Hua Chanfeng. I have helped the old general suppress the toxins in his body for all these years, and I know better than anyone how serious his condition is. It would take at least a few months, or even several years of long-term care, to cure the old general. It is simply impossible to cure him in a few minutes. But you are here to speak nonsense and nonsense. That is, in these few years, my temper has improved a lot. If I were younger, I would have beaten you up by now. How can you talk nonsense here? Hua Changfeng's face turned pale, and the more he looked at Yi Wuliang, the more he felt that he didn't like it. Yi Wuliang rubbed his head in frustration. He sighed and glanced at Hua Changfeng. Hua Changfeng, right? President of the Chinese Medical Association, right? Well, since you doubt what I said and think I'm talking nonsense, then dare you make a bet with me? Do you think I can completely remove the toxins from the old general's body in 5 minutes? This time, Yi Wuliang gave a precise time, 5 minutes. He only needs 5 minutes to cure the old general. Hua Changfeng's face was already not good looking, but when he heard this, it became even worse. His old face was so gloomy that it was about to drip with water. Who? His chest heaved, and his anger kept rising. Fine, you want to bet with me, then I'll bet with you. You just said that it would only take 5 minutes to cure the old general, so I will play with you. If you can cure the old general in 5 minutes, I will kneel down and kowtow to you, and I will call you my master. I will serve you every day, whether it is to bring you tea or pour water for you, or to knead your shoulders and legs, I will accept it. But if you can't cure the old general, or if you kill him, then you'll have to cut off your own hands and never treat anyone again. Hua Changfeng's forehead bulged with veins, and he shouted angrily. He was really angry. From beginning to end, he felt that Yi Wuliang was messing around thoroughly, so he really had no way to have a good attitude towards Yi Wuliang. Seeing him so angry, Huangpu Jianghe spoke to comfort him. Hua Changfeng looked at Yi Wuliang with a cold face and indifference. Okay, you can start the treatment. I want to see what you can do. After saying this, he stopped talking. Please, Dr. Yi. Huangpu Jianghe took a deep breath and said in a low voice. Huangpu Jianghe knew very well that his father was now on his last breath. He was afraid that he would not last the night, and it was even doubtful whether he could last until the morning. Since he is already a dying man, it might as well be a last-ditch effort, and maybe a miracle can be created. Chapter 48, The Stunned Hua Changfeng. Huangpu Jianghe took a deep breath, then closed his eyes and prayed silently, waiting for a miracle to happen. Yi Wuliang walked up to Huangpu Ming and took out a silver needle and a bottle of medicine from his storage ring. His storage ring was given to him by his 37th wife. Every time he used it, Yi Wuliang couldn't help but think of the past, when he used to sneak a peek at his 37th wife taking a bath. The beautiful sight was like a root in his mind, and it would not go away. Hey, the wives are all waiting for me to go back. After I finish my training, I will take my wives back to find you. Then we will live together, he. Yi Wuliang smiled, and his mood suddenly improved a lot. The mood that had been a little upset because of Hua Changfeng's doubts had suddenly become more cheerful. He pinched the pill in his hand and stuffed it into Huangpu Ming's mouth. He immediately lifted the quilt and tore off the clothes on Huangpu Ming's body, and the silver needles pierced into Huangpu Ming's body acupoints like lightning. Yi Wuliang's needle dropping speed was like lightning, and in an instant, several silver needles had already been inserted into Huangpu Ming's body acupuncture points. Watching the speed at which the needles were being inserted, Hua Changfeng, who was watching from the side, was clearly taken aback. He didn't even see Yi Wuliang's movements clearly, and the silver needles had already fallen. This made him a little confused. At this moment, Yi Wuliang continued to quickly insert needles, and several more silver needles fell into the acupuncture points. In the span of 2 or 3 seconds, there were already more than 20 silver needles in Huangpu Ming's body. Next to him, Hua Changfeng's body was stiff and his eyes were wide open. He was not shocked by Yi Wuliang's speed of dropping the needles, but because he discovered that the needles Yi Wuliang dropped. Each needle was inserted into the acupoint with extreme care. Moreover, the depth of each needle was very reasonable. The layout of the needles was extremely clear. It felt as if he were in the presence of a master who was proficient in acupuncture and had decades of experience. Hua Changfeng was stunned. At this moment, Huang Fuming, who was lying in bed with his eyes closed and in a coma, suddenly opened his eyes. The next second, Huang Fuming spat out a mouthful of blood that was pitch black and smelled foul. At the same time, blood also flowed from the gaps between the fingernails of all 10 fingers. However, all the blood that flowed out was black and purple, and it smelled foul. As this black blood flowed out, the silver needles on his body trembled frantically. Yi Wuliang's 10 fingers flew through the air, and the magnificent qi rushed into Huang Fuming's body along with the silver needles, wandering through Huang Fuming's meridians, helping him to clean up the residual poison in his meridians that had penetrated deep into his bones. These toxins were quickly gathered together and flowed along the blood, flowing out from between the fingernails. After 2 minutes, Yi Wuliang stopped moving. At the moment he stopped, the silver needles on Huang Fuming's body were all ejected by a burst of energy. Huang Fuming, who had been lying on the bed, seemed to be dying at any moment, suddenly stood up and let out a loud cry. "Ah, it feels good, it feels good." Huang Fuming stood on his feet on the ground. Even though his body was already as thin as a skeleton, with only skin covering his bones, he stood there. At the moment he shouted, a mighty aura of power and authority radiated from his body. The god of war is in his twilight years. The fighting spirit lives on. Although he is already an old man, the blood and fighting spirit hidden in his bones have become stronger and stronger with the passage of time. He gradually straightened his back, and a majestic aura emanated from him. "Ah, father, you. Huangpu Jianghe opened his eyes. He looked at Huang Puming standing by the bed and was suddenly overcome with emotion, tears streaming down his face. The next second, he fell to his knees and wept uncontrollably. On the other side, Hua Changfeng took a few steps back, his face full of infinite horror. He stared at him with wide eyes, unable to believe it. 3 minutes. In the end, Yi Wuliang didn't even need 5 minutes. He used only 3 minutes to clean up the toxins in the old war god's body, allowing him to wake up and even stand up on his own and let out a domineering roar. All of this was so shocking and unbelievable. Hua Changfeng was stunned. Chapter 49. You are not qualified. Plop. Hua Changfeng was so shocked that he sat on the ground, his eyes wide and his mouth as if he could stuff an egg in it. Suddenly, Hua Changfeng, who was sitting on the ground, raised his hand and slapped his own face hard. Pop. The slap was very loud, and it hurt so much that he gritted his teeth and tears came out. "Ah, it feels so good, so good. Little brother, you are my savior. I, Huang Fuming, have never felt so good since I was poisoned 30 years ago. I can't thank you enough. In the future, if you need the Huangfu family in any way, just ask. As long as it doesn't harm China or the people, the Huangfu family, including myself, Huang Fuming, will be willing to go through fire and water to help you fulfill any request." Huang Fuming looked at Yi Wuliang, exuding a majestic air of heroism. Even though he was in a deep coma just now, he was still able to sense what was going on in the outside world, so he knew that Yi Wuliang had saved him. "Father, how do you feel now?" Huangfu Jianghe immediately stepped forward to help Huang Fuming. Huang Fuming refused with a domineering manner. "I can stand on my own. Moreover, I feel very comfortable now, more comfortable than ever. I can feel it. All the toxins in my body have been completely cleansed. It's really great. 30 years ago, I was attacked by a traitor and was poisoned. I was lucky to survive. But the residual poison in my body has also tortured me for 30 years, and I often have the pain of being burned by fire. But now that the toxins have been cleaned up, I will no longer suffer from that pain in the future." Huang Fuming spoke. Huangfu Jianghe was in tears. He looked at Yi Wuliang and clasped his fists. "Dr. Yi, I can't thank you enough for your great kindness. The Huangfu family owes you a life." Huangfu Jianghe said solemnly. "Grandpa." At this time, the little fat man who had always been by Huangfu Jianghe's side, who didn't have a strong sense of presence, came forward and carefully helped Huang Fuming. This time, Huang Fuming did not refuse, but instead looked at the little fat boy with love. This little fat boy is Huang Fuming's grandson and Huang Fujianghe's own son, Yunshan.
That's right. His surname is Yun.
Huang Fujianghe has two sons, the eldest named Huangfu and the youngest named after his mother. As Huang Fuming fondly rubbed his grandson's round head, Huang Fujianghe smiled and said, "Dr. Yi, I just forgot to introduce you.
This is my son." "Well, that's not important,"
Yi Wuliang interrupted with a raised hand.
"Ha?" Huang Fujianghe was stunned.
Yi Wuliang looked at Hua Changfeng with a smile.
Boom. Hua Changfeng was struck by lightning again. "What do you want to do?"
"Hey, Dr. Hua, you don't have a good memory, do you? Who was it who said that if I could cure the old general, he would kneel down and kowtow to me, and worship me as his master?"
Yi Wuliang smiled. "Pop, pop."
His words were like two slaps in the face, slapping Hua Changfeng hard.
Hua Changfeng's face turned purple and green, ugly as hell. Become a disciple? He would have to kneel down and kowtow to Yi Wuliang as his master? What kind of joke is this?
I'm already in my 70s, and Yi Wuliang is younger than my grandson.
If I kowtow to him and become his disciple, I'll lose all face, and how can I survive? Me, you. He started to stammer, trying to say something. But at this moment, Yi Wuliang spoke.
"Hey, forget it, I won't make things difficult for you. Forget about the apprenticeship.
After all, you're too old, not qualified to be my apprentice. I don't like you." Poof.
As soon as he said this, Hua Changfeng, who was stammering and unable to speak, almost spat a mouthful of old blood in Yi Wuliang's face.
"What, you think I'm too old?"
In an instant, his already ugly face became even uglier. When Yi Wuliang said he wanted him to kowtow and become his disciple, he felt humiliated, but now Yi Wuliang actually said he was too old and that he was not qualified to become his disciple. This remark was like 100 slaps in a row, wildly landing on Hua Changfeng's face. It smashed his old face, stripped him of all dignity, and made him feel ashamed. Hua Changfeng stood up slightly, his anger making him wobble a few steps back. He gritted his teeth and looked at Yi Wuliang, angrily saying, "Don't be so arrogant.
I am one of the great doctors of China, so how can I not be qualified to be your disciple? Why do you look down on me so much?"
"Kid, don't think that just because you cured General Huangfu, you can really prove that your medical skills are better than mine."
I am not convinced. Hua Changfeng roared. The light of unwillingness was spewing from his eyes. Chapter 50 Flying Needles from Afar.
Hua Changfeng roared in anger, his eyes were about to burst from rage.
He was so angry that he wanted to tear Yi Wuliang to pieces. In an instant, the atmosphere on the scene became extremely tense. Huang Fuming and Huang Fujianghe both wanted to break the tension, and Shen Huowu, Li Qingyi, and Zhao Linger, who had come to watch the fun, also couldn't help but look nervous.
But just as the atmosphere was getting tense, Yi Wuliang suddenly made a scared face and then, like a frightened little rabbit, he rushed towards Shen Huowu and Li Qingyi.
"Ah, this old man seems to want to eat people, so scary,"
he said, and then he jumped into Shen Huowu's arms, burying his head in her chest. "Wife, hold me tight, I'm scared." Shen Huowu's whole body stiffened and her face turned red as blood.
"Little wife, I'm scared, hug me."
He then pounced on Li Qingyi.
In an instant,
the whole audience was silent. Hua Changfeng suddenly widened his eyes and looked at this scene like he was seeing a ghost.
"What's going on? You shameless bastard, you're a public hooligan, aren't you?"
His mouth twitched, and his old face turned ashen. Huang Fuming, Huang Fujianghe, and the little fat boy Yunshan, who had already taken his mother's surname, all stared with wide eyes, a look of shock on their faces. In short, at that moment, they were all dumbfounded.
"Humph, old man, don't think I'm afraid of you.
If it weren't for my two wives here today, I wouldn't want the scene to be too bloody, so I'll just beat you to death right now." Yi Wuliang looked up and yelled, but he still clung to Li Qingyi's arms, unwilling to leave. Li Qingyi was also flushed with anger. Hua Changfeng was about to explode with anger. "At this time, you are only thinking about taking advantage of me, and you don't even take me seriously. Kid, I want to challenge you, you and I will decide who is the best with our medical skills."
Hua Changfeng roared. "Challenge me? A duel to the death?" Yi Wuliang heard this and looked at Hua Changfeng with disdain. "You want to compare medical skills with me? Ha, are you qualified? Do you know the Tai divine needle? Do you know the ancient acupuncture method? Have you heard of the 13 needles of the Ghost Gate? Can you use them? Have you read the inner scroll of the Hua medical classics? Do you know what is written in BNK's Heart Sutra? I guess you don't know any of this, and you've never even come into contact with it, so what are you going to compare with me? With your mouth? After that, Yi Wuliang stood up straight, stretched, and yawned. After that, he hugged both sides. If there's nothing else, don't make a fuss here. It's getting late. It's almost midnight. We have to go home and sleep. We're making a baby. As soon as he said this, Shen Huowu and Li Qingyi both subconsciously reached out and grabbed Yi Wuliang's soft flesh at his waist, and they spun a full 180 degrees. Shen Huowu's face turned red, and she lowered her voice and said angrily, "If you dare to talk nonsense again, I'll show you what I can do." Her tone was a warning. Yi Wuliang smiled and turned to look at Li Qingyi. Li Qingyi raised her hand and made a cracking sound, which scared Yi Wuliang and made him shiver. He felt a cold wind blowing between his legs. Seeing them flirting like this, Hua Changfeng became even more angry. "Humph, kid, the divine needle of Tai and the ancient acupuncture techniques you mentioned have been lost for hundreds of years, and the BNK Heart Sutra and Hua Tuo Medical Sutra only exist in legend. No one can prove that those two medical sutras actually exist. So, what's the point of saying these things?" Hua Changfeng said with a stern face. "Who says that the two medical classics don't exist? And who told you that the divine needle and the ancient needle technique had been lost?" Yi Wuliang stretched his arms and crossed his arms, looking like a master. "You say that the two kinds of acupuncture have been lost, right? Well, today, I'll let you see for yourself. Let you see the Tai divine needle first." Before he finished speaking, Yi Wuliang suddenly raised his hand and performed a move, his qi surging, and he took the needle from a distance. The next second, the silver needles flew out and shot towards Hua Changfeng. Hua Changfeng was unable to react in time, and several silver needles had already pierced his clothes and entered his acupuncture points. He just wanted to resist. As a result, a wave of pressure spread from Yi Wuliang, making Hua Changfeng unable to move, and he could only watch helplessly as Yi Wuliang continued to fly the needles and pierce the acupuncture points on his body. Chapter 51, Kneeling to Become a Disciple. Yi Wuliang flew needles through the air, revealing a domineering posture, and Hua Changfeng was unable to resist at all. At first, Hua Changfeng was furious, cursing constantly, but soon Hua Changfeng realized that something was wrong and his face was full of horror. He felt a warm current running through his body after the silver needles were inserted into his acupuncture points, following a prescribed route through his body's meridians. The sensation was extremely pleasant, and at the same time, a wave of heat surged, making his lower abdomen feel warm and even a little hot. In an instant, Hua Changfeng was stunned. "This is the divine needle of Tai. You are using the divine needle of Tai on me?" Hua Changfeng exclaimed. He stared at Yi Wuliang with wide eyes. Yi Wuliang was too lazy to answer, and he withdrew the pressure. "Pull the silver needle out yourself." He turned his head and looked at Huangfu Jianghe. "You're lucky. Your heart and blood vessels are damaged, and your physical strength is not as good as before. I'll help you get rid of your hidden illness today." After saying that, Yi Wuliang directly raised his hand and waved it. Huangfu Jianghe's upper body clothes exploded, revealing a strong, muscular, and scarred body. Before he could react, the silver needles pierced his body's acupuncture points. This time, Yi Wuliang was using the ancient acupuncture technique. After the silver needles were inserted into the acupuncture points, a golden light actually appeared under Huangfu Jianghe's skin, and the meridians between each pair of silver needles were the route that the golden light traveled. Boom! Hua Changfeng, who was standing next to him, was stunned again, as if he had been struck by lightning and was in a dream. At this moment, his eyes were about to pop out. He had seen it in ancient records. When the ancient acupuncture method was used, the meridians of the human body would glow with a golden light, and it could penetrate the skin and flesh, visible to the naked eye. Now, the golden light on Huangfu Jianghe's body has already lit up a large area of his meridians, like a large net. Tai divine needles, ancient acupuncture. How did you learn these two lost acupuncture techniques that have been lost for hundreds of years? Hua Changfeng exclaimed, as if he had seen a ghost. Yi Wuliang ignored him and continued to give Huangfu Jianghe acupuncture. It was only after 10 minutes that it was over.
As the silver needles were removed from Huangfu Zhanghe's body, he felt refreshed and full of energy, as if he had turned 10 years younger. The fatal injury to his heart and the hidden illnesses left behind, as well as other hidden illnesses in his body, were all completely eliminated in just 10 minutes. Ha, I used the divine needles of Tai on you, and the ancient needles on Huangfu Zhanghe. You should be able to tell the difference, right? So now you still think you are qualified to compare your medical skills with mine? Yi Wuliang looked at Hua Changfeng with a smug look, his words tinged with a hint of mockery and provocation. However, the next second, Yi Wuliang was blinded. Because Hua Changfeng directly knelt down in front of him. Damn, what are you doing? You're not trying to touch porcelain, are you? Yi Wuliang was shocked. Master, please accept my worship. Hua Changfeng, however, pounced on him, fell to his knees and held Yi Wuliang's leg tightly. Master. I'm convinced, I'm willing to be your disciple. I think being able to become your disciple is really a blessing from a previous life. Master, although I am old, I am in good health. I can live another 30 years without any problem. Please accept me as your disciple. I am still in my prime, and you won't lose out by taking me on. Hua Changfeng, who was still unwilling and felt that becoming a disciple was a disgrace. After seeing the Tai divine needle and the ancient acupuncture method, his attitude changed completely. Face, dignity? Ha. Bullshit. These are nothing in the face of the two great divine acupuncture methods. Damn it, you old man, you have no shame. You are too old, you are not qualified to be my apprentice. Yi Wuliang was speechless. Master, I'm not old. I'll be 75 years old next year, and I'm in good health. I'll live to be 105 without a problem. Oh, I remember now. When I was born, the age on my household registration was wrong. I'm actually 69 this year and 70 next year. I'm not old. I'm very young. I'm in great shape, I eat well, and even if I were to get married again, I'd be fine. Hua Changfeng is shameless. Faced with the temptation of two great needlework techniques. What is the face? At this moment, he didn't care about anything else, he just wanted to become a disciple. Moreover, he knew very well that if he didn't cling to Yi Wuliang today, he would never have the chance to cling to him again in his life. Chapter 52, Shocking the Audience. At this moment, Hua Changfeng was completely desperate. Next to him, Huangfu Ming was dumbfounded. Huangfu Zhanghe was also dumbfounded. Xinhuowu, Li Qingyi, Zhao Linger, and the little fat boy Yinshan were all dumbfounded. Is this the famous Chinese medical sage? Is this Hua Changfeng? The president of the Chinese Medicine Association? Not that old man who came out of nowhere? Everyone was dumbfounded. Yi Wuliang was also dumbfounded. He had never imagined that the allure of the divine needles and the ancient needling technique would be so great. He had just performed it purely to show off and to humiliate the other party, but who would have thought that Hua Changfeng would immediately kneel before him and beg to be his disciple? Master, please accept me as your disciple. I'll pour you tea, wash your clothes, fold your bedclothes, and make you and your two wives feel comfortable. Hua Changfeng continued to speak, holding Yi Wuliang's leg tightly, as if he was afraid that he would run away. When Hua Changfeng called them masters, Xinhuowu and Li Qingyi both blushed and lowered their heads in embarrassment. Master, I'm stuck with you anyway. If you don't take me as your disciple, then I have no reason to live. I might as well die. Yi Wuliang's face turned black and he said angrily. Are you threatening me? I don't care, I'm going to become your disciple anyway. If you don't accept me, I won't live anymore, and I'll become a lonely ghost, harassing you every day. Hua Changfeng spoke with righteous indignation. Yi Wuliang regretted it deeply in his heart, regretting that he shouldn't have bragged about the two top-secret needlework techniques. Oh, I've really sinned. Get up. I'll take you as my apprentice. In the end, Yi Wuliang had no choice but to agree with a sad face. Hearing this, Hua Changfeng immediately became excited, stood up and took a few steps back, then knelt down heavily. Disciple Hua Changfeng, greetings to the master. He said. He knelt down 3 times and kowtowed 9 times. Get out of here. Take this BNK medical text and get out. When you've studied this medical text and understand it, then come back to me. Before you understand it, you're not allowed to appear in front of me. Yi Wuliang didn't want to see him, so he took one of the two medical classics he had just mentioned out of his storage ring and threw it at Hua Changfeng. Hua Changfeng picked up BNK's medical classics, his body shaking violently, and tears streaming down his face. This, the legendary medical classics, actually exist? He shouted in disbelief.
This is a translated version, in traditional Chinese characters.
You should be able to read it. Okay, get out of here. When you've studied the medical classics and understand them, come find me. At that time, I will teach you the ancient acupuncture method or the Tai divine needle. Yi Wuliang waved his hand.
Hua Changfeng excitedly agreed again and again.
Yi Wuliang was relieved.
This medical text is very profound.
According to Yi Wuliang's estimate, even if Hua Changfeng is a leader in the modern Chinese medicine world, it will take at least 2 or 3 years to understand it. He won't bother him for these 2 or 3 years, and he will be happy and at ease.
It's getting late, old general. We have to go back. Yi Wuliang said lightly and left.
Please. General Huang Fuming said in a deep voice, and then he actually put on his clothes and, with the help of his grandson and son, personally escorted Yi Wuliang out of the villa.
It's late at night. The Chu family.
As Yi Wuliang and the others were leaving Qinghu Villa, the Chu family, Chu Tianchang, was already impatient. He was frowning and impatient, like an ant on a hot pan.
He arranged for someone to deal with Yi Wuliang.
Now, several hours have passed, and there has been no news from the people he sent out, and he can't get in touch with them. This made him very anxious, like a hot pot of ants.
Why hasn't he returned yet? Why can't I get in touch with him? Could it be that he failed in his assassination attempt on Yi Wuliang and was killed? Shutian City couldn't help but think about it.
Just as he was thinking about it, a figure appeared in front of him. It was the black-clad man who had been sent to assassinate Yi Wuliang and had then been subdued by him.
His code name was Dark Knight Bloodshed. You're back. You're finally back. How was it? Did the assassination succeed? Did Yi Wuliang die? Seeing Dark Knight Bloody return, Shutian City stood up excitedly and asked excitedly.
However, what greeted him was a sharp dagger, which was instantly pressed against his throat, and a pair of cold eyes full of murderous intent. In an instant, Chu Tianchang was thunderstruck, his soul terrified, his entire body instantly drenched in cold sweat, and fear filling his heart.
Chapter 53, A woman's heart is like a needle at the bottom of the sea. What do you mean? Put away your dagger.
Shutian City was terrified, and he opened his mouth in a panic, trembling like a sieve. Cold sweat the size of a pea ran down his forehead, and his back was covered in sweat, quickly soaking through his clothes.
Chu, I'm sorry to tell you that I'm no longer a member of your family. I just talked to Mr. Yi, and he can offer a higher price than your family, so I'm now Mr. Yi's man, and I'm working for him. He then smiled, revealing a cold smile.
However, his face was covered by a black cloth, so all that Chu Tianchang could see were his cold eyes, and he couldn't see his smile. But even so, Chu Tianchang's body trembled wildly, and endless fear filled his heart.
Shutian City, you don't have to be too scared. Mr. Yi didn't ask me to kill you. He just asked me to come back, to teach you a lesson.
The words were not finished.
Crack!
The sound of a bone breaking suddenly rang out.
The next second, Chu Tianchang let out a piercing scream.
His left arm was broken and the pain instantly swept through his whole body. Shutian City sat on the ground, covering the broken place with his hands. The burning pain made his body tremble.
You.
Chu Tianchang's forehead veins bulged. Shutian City, Mr. Yi also told me to tell you that if you want to deal with him, don't use these disgusting tricks. If you continue to use these tricks, he will come and kill you next time. Also, Mr. Yi said that you can challenge him at any time with fair and square means. He can accept all challenges, both verbal and physical. But the prerequisite is that if you lose, you have to be able to pay the stakes. The man in black said coldly.
Shutian City's face was already extremely ugly.
He had arranged for someone to kill Yi Wuliang. As a result, Yi Wuliang not only survived, but the people he sent to kill him turned against him, betrayed him, and came back to deal with him, breaking one of his arms. This is a great shame for him, tearing his face off and throwing it on the ground to be rubbed frantically. His face was completely lost at this moment. Ah, in the throat of Chu Tianchang, a groan of unwillingness was emitted, and the feeling of shame spread throughout his heart. I don't accept it, I don't accept it. You go back and tell Yi Wuliang that I will definitely find him again, and I will definitely win next time.
Humph, you trash like you can win against Mr. Yi? You're dreaming.
The man in black sneered, his face full of disdain. After saying that, he turned and left, not even bothering to look at Chu Tiancheng again, as if looking at him one more time would tarnish his own eyes. The realm of the black-clad man, although only at the peak of the earthly realm, disappeared in an instant, leaving no trace. Looking at the empty living room, Chu Tiancheng's forehead bulged with veins, and his face was extremely ugly. He let out a furious roar, and in the midst of the roar, his anger reached his heart, and he suddenly spat out a mouthful of blood. Yi Wuliang, you wait for me, wait. Chu Tian City clenched his fists. At this moment, his hatred for Yi Wuliang had reached its peak. It was a hatred that could not be quelled even if Yi Wuliang were to be chopped into 1,000 pieces, smashed into 1,000,000 pieces, and his bones scattered to the four winds. It was a hatred that could not be cooled even if Yi Wuliang were to be fed to the fish in the river. Urban village. Yi Wuliang came back with 2 women. The 2 women went back to the room to rest, and Yi Wuliang followed them in, expecting something. As a result, he was thrown out by the 2 women, who then closed the door and locked him out. The reason given was that they wanted to let him cool down. Yi Wuliang, who had thought he would be able to hit a home run tonight, was suddenly like a red-hot iron being poured with a basin of cold water, and he was speechless. Women's hearts are like needles at the bottom of the sea, really hard to fathom. I'm tired. Yi Wuliang sighed in sorrow. He could only sit cross-legged in the courtyard, absorbing the true qi of heaven and earth, nourishing his soul, and exploring the mysteries of a higher realm. Chapter 54, A Visit. The next morning, Yi Wuliang was woken up by a knock on the door. He was sitting cross-legged in the courtyard, but when he opened his eyes and waved his hand, the courtyard gate opened. The next second, the 200-plus-pound little fat guy, Spruce, ran excitedly in. Huh, little fat boy, it's you? What are you doing here? Seeing Huangpu Jianghe's youngest son run in, Yi Wuliang raised his eyebrows. This little fat boy is only 20 years old, and Yi Wuliang thinks he is just a little kid. Hey, boss, I'm here to visit you. The little fat man smiled. Boss? Hearing him call himself boss, Yi Wuliang was depressed. Who is your boss? Don't make friends with the wrong people. Boss, I'm not trying to curry favor. I thought about it all last night. I think you're awesome, and I want to follow you as my leader and learn from you how to pick up girls. No, I want to learn from you how to be a good person. Spruce said with a serious expression on his face. After that, he quickly ran up to him and carefully took out a magazine from his pocket. Boss, this is a collector's edition of Mr. Ozawa. This is a gift from me to you. Please accept it. He said this with a mischievous smile. Sigh. Yi Wuliang looked at the hot pages and almost sprayed blood from his nose. His face immediately turned dark. I am a gentleman and don't like to read this kind of trash. You little fat boy have an evil heart. After saying that, he immediately grabbed the magazine and stuffed it into his storage ring. How many more of these magazines do you have? Bring them all to me. You are too young to read these. It's inappropriate. Bring them to me and I will help you destroy them so as not to affect your development. Hey, boss, it turns out you and I are kindred spirits. I knew it. Spruce immediately became excited and did not hide it. Boss, as long as you take me as your little brother and teach me how to pick up girls, I can give you all my collector's editions if you can have girls on both sides like you. In addition, I have dozens of terabytes of learning materials on my hard drive. I can also dedicate them to you. Upon hearing this, Yi Wuliang was full of excitement and his eyes lit up, but then he became a little confused. No, you are the son of the Huangpu family, the son of Huangpu Jianghe. If you want to pick up girls, the girls will be lining up to be with you. Why do you need to learn from me? Yi Wuliang asked. Yunshan suddenly had a sad face. Boss, you don't know, I'm not suitable for cultivation. I'm only at the beginning of the most basic realm of refining the organs. I don't think I'll ever reach the realm of the earth element in this lifetime. Hey, my brother has already made countless military achievements in the past 3 years and is the youngest 5-star general in China. I'm nothing under my brother's halo. And I have been engaged to be married since I was a child, but the other party doesn't even look at me. If it weren't for the face of the Huangfu family, I would have already withdrawn from the marriage. Yunsan sat down opposite Yi Wuliang and said in a depressed tone, "My grandfather and father also knew that the other party didn't like me, and they didn't force me to marry her. They just kept treating me coldly." Everyone understood tacitly. My father's plan was to send me to the army next year to gain experience, and let me work in a civilian position. By then, if the other party wanted to marry someone else or get married to someone else, it would have nothing to do with my Huangfu family, and it would have nothing to do with me. Boss, you don't know, I'm now a joke in the imperial capital. And that damned bitch has repeatedly said outrageous things, saying that I am a waste and simply don't deserve him. If I hadn't been born into the Huangfu family, someone like me would be a piece of trash for life, and I wouldn't even have the qualifications to talk to her in this lifetime. Speaking of which, Yunshan clenched his fists and gritted his teeth. I am not willing to accept this. I am suffering. After seeing your skills in picking up girls yesterday, I was amazed. You have won over 2 beautiful women. I was thinking that if you were willing to teach me a trick or two, then I would be invincible. I would then chase after that bitch and then abandon him. He suddenly became excited. Yi Wuliang frowned slightly. You said that the woman called you trash? What kind of power does the woman's family have that the young master of the Huangfu family dares to call her trash? Is their family too strong, or is your Huangfu family not a card face? Well, it's probably both. The Shiman family is no weaker than my family, so Shiman Shanshan dared to insult me like that. Boss, you say, she doesn't like me, so be it. I don't take the marriage seriously anyway. Let's just keep a cool head about it. I'll go to the army and take up a civilian post. After I leave, she can marry whoever she wants. Our family won't stand in her way. I haven't provoked her, and I haven't seen her for 7 or 8 years. She curses me everywhere, calling me a waste and a piece of trash. What does she mean? It's really too much. The little fat boy was once again sullen and depressed. Seeing his appearance, Yi Wuliang felt a little sympathy for him. He thought that as the young master of the Huangfu family, he would have no worries about food or clothing, but he never imagined that he would have such worries. Chapter 55, Black Panther Base. Hey, I didn't expect that you were also pitiful. In that case, I'll take you as my little brother. You'll be by my side, following my brother. Sooner or later, I'll take you to eat and drink, and you'll meet all kinds of beautiful women. Yi Wuliang agreed. In fact, he only had a favorable impression of the chubby little fat boy, and thought he was cute, so he agreed. When Yunshan heard Yi Wuliang's answer, he was overjoyed and jumped up in place. Yi Wuliang frowned and looked outside. At this time, another car drove up and stopped in front of the courtyard. Then several people walked into the courtyard. Which one is Mr. Yi Wuliang? The leader was a man in a suit with glasses, who looked gentle and polite. You don't hit a smiling person. Although he didn't know who these people were, they were so polite when they came in, so Yi Wuliang didn't intend to drive them away. He asked, "Who are you and what are you doing here?" "Oh, you are Mr. Yi Wuliang? We are sent by Chu Xiaopai," the man in glasses said. Yi Wuliang immediately frowned. Chu Xiao? Shutian City? Last night, that guy sent someone to kill me, but I turned him around and had him go back and break Chu Tiancheng's arm. It's only been 10 hours, and Chu Tiancheng has already sent someone else? Chu Tiancheng is really persistent. Why, what is the purpose of his arrangement for you to come here? Yi Wuliang glanced at the 3 people who had just entered the courtyard. These 3 people had no cultivation at all, they were just ordinary people, and they weren't looking for trouble. After all, to come looking for trouble, at the very least, you need to be a powerful cultivator of the Earth realm or the Heaven realm. Mr. Yi, last night you had someone deliver a message to Chu Xiao, saying that you were willing to accept any fair and square challenge from him, right? The man in glasses said, "Now, Chu Xiao is waiting for you at the Black Panther base in the suburbs and would like to invite you and Miss Shinhuo to come." The man in glasses said slowly, always smiling and very polite. Yi Wuliang frowned. Black Panther base? What is it for? Boss, I know about the Black Panther base. Spruce said, "When I first came to Jiangzhou City, I heard that there was a Black Panther base here. At the time, I thought someone was secretly breeding Black Panthers, so I was very excited to go and take a look. But who knew that after I went there, I found out that it was just a dog farm, with a lot of large dogs.
On hearing this, Yi Wuliang's face turned black. What does this mean when Chu Tiancheng asks him to meet him at the dog farm? Did someone teach him a lesson last night and shock him so much that his brain is broken? Hey, what does your master want to meet me at the dog farm for? Is he out of his mind? Is it popular to meet at the dog farm these days? Yi Wuliang asked in a low voice.
The man with glasses raised his hand, gently pushed the frame on his nose, and said slowly, "Our young master didn't want to talk about anything with you, he just wanted to invite you to bet on dogs."
Dog gambling? Yi Wuliang frowned.
Mr. Yi sent a message to Chu last night, saying that he would accept any challenge, so this dog race should be considered within the scope of all challenges, right?
Mr. Chu said. He will bet 500 million this time.
If Mr. Yi wins, he can take away 500 million. If Mr. Yi loses, he hopes that you will leave Miss Shen and never appear by her side again.
The man in glasses spoke slowly and deliberately. After hearing this, Yi Wuliang couldn't help but burst into laughter, and tears flew out.
Spruce and the man with glasses all looked at Yi Wuliang in surprise, not knowing why he was laughing so happily, and even less understanding the meaning of his sudden laughter. Yi Wuliang was laughing and crying with tears flying out of his eyes, laughing and saying, "Ha ha ha, this Chutian city really has a problem. He has nothing better to do than to bet on dogs with me.
Is he sick in the head? He actually plays such a childish bet. He is really a big fool. Ha ha ha, ha ha ha." Upon hearing this, the man in glasses looked a bit gloomy. But before he could say anything, Yi Wuliang got up and said, "Gambling on dogs, right?
Fine, go back and tell Chutian City that I'll be there later, and tell him to get the money ready for me.
But it's not 500 million that you need to prepare. 500 million is too little. It's not fun to play with that.
Go back and tell him to get 10 billion ready, or else, he's not qualified for me to make a personal visit."
Chapter 56, Stimulating Gambling. 1 billion?
Upon hearing this, the man with glasses froze, and his mouth twitched. In his opinion, a bet of 500 million was already a sky-high price, but now Yi Wuliang was going to play with 1 billion.
What, are you scared?
Yi Wuliang looked at him with contempt. "If you're afraid to play with a billion, what kind of man are you? From now on, just squat when you go to the toilet, don't stand up, you're too fucking cowardly." The man in glasses looked uncomfortable. After taking a deep breath, he walked out of the courtyard and stood at the door, dialing the number of Chutian City to convey Yi Wuliang's meaning. At this moment, Chu Tiancheng was already waiting at the dog farm. When he heard that Yi Wuliang was willing to bet 1 billion, his heart throbbed and his fists clenched.
Humph, what does the damn thing mean, daring to directly bid 1 billion? Does he think he can win?
Chu Tiancheng roared in a low voice, "Okay, since he's looking for death, I'll agree and tell him.
I'll agree to the bet of 10 billion. After that, he hung up the phone. In the courtyard, the man with glasses walked into the courtyard again to convey the meaning of Chu Tiancheng.
After the message was delivered, the man with glasses left. Yi Wuliang got up and stretched, patting Xiaopeng's shoulder and said, "Let's go. I'll show you the world." "Boss, what kind of exposure is betting on dogs?"
"I've seen it before."
Yin Shan muttered.
"Have you ever seen a dog race with a $1 billion bet?"
Yi Wuliang asked in return.
"Well, I haven't seen that.
Now that you mention it, it suddenly sounds interesting.
I'm looking forward to it."
Yunshan hurriedly got up and followed Yi Wuliang outside. Yi Wuliang did not bring Shen Huowu with him. The person who had just been arranged by Chu Tiancheng said that Chu Tiancheng had invited him and Shen Huowu to go together, but Yi Wuliang did not bring Shen Huowu, just to make Chu Tiancheng not get his way and to make the guy angry to death.
Black Panther Base.
It is not far from Qinghu Villa, where General Huang Fuming is recuperating. It is only a dozen kilometers away, and can be reached in 20 minutes by car.
But it took almost an hour to get here from the city.
Chutian City had been waiting for a long time. He stared at Yi Wuliang's car with a gloomy look in his eyes. When the car door opened and he saw Yi Wuliang and Yunshan get out, Chutian City's brows furrowed tightly.
"Yi Wuliang, why didn't Huowu come with you?"
Chutian City shouted angrily. He stood there straight, his arm in a cast.
At the moment, he looked at Yi Wuliang with hatred and resentment in his eyes.
Yi Wuliang ignored him, his gaze sweeping the darkness, and a sneer appeared on his face. because he sensed that there were two local realm experts lurking in the dark, as well as one early-stage Tianyuan realm expert. Obviously, the black-clad man at the peak of the local realm who rebelled last night made Chu Tiancheng a little apprehensive, so he had the experts lurking in the dark to prevent Yi Wuliang from cleaning him up. Two local realm, one early stage of the heavenly realm, these three scum, do you feel safe? Yi Wuliang said to himself, his face full of disdain. He looked up at Chu Tiancheng and said lightly, "Hey, Chu Tiancheng, you asked me to bring Huo Wu here, so I had to bring her. You're not my son, and I'm not your father, so why should I listen to you? You're nothing. You." Shu Tian City was furious. His right fist clenched, and the veins on his forehead bulged out like raised earth dragons, making his face look a bit hideous. His teeth were clenched so tightly that he wanted to bite his back teeth to pieces. The saying that enemies meet and are especially envious is vividly reflected in Chu Tiancheng at this moment. Shu Tian City, when he is free, why does he want to bet on dogs? If you want to play, I can play with you, but is the billion-dollar bet ready? I'll explain first. If the money isn't in place, I won't play with you. Yi Wuliang stretched his body and said in a lazy tone. Shu Tian City did not immediately answer, but kept panting heavily, his eyes constantly spitting out anger, and his teeth clenched tightly, as if he wanted to tear Yi Wuliang to pieces. Chapter 57, Vicious Thoughts. At this moment, Shu Tiancheng was really about to lose his temper, but he was just gritting his teeth and suppressing his anger. He glanced at Yi Wuliang and then at Yunshan. I really want to know who this little fatty is. What do you want to do by bringing such a little fatty here? Chu Tiancheng asked coldly. Well, who cares who I am? You want to bet on a dog, so I'm here to watch the fun, is that okay? Yunshan spoke directly, completely ignoring Chu Tiancheng's face. In fact, Yunshan didn't take Chu Tian City seriously at all. In terms of identity and background, Chu Tian City was just the young master of the Chu family, while Yunshan was the son of the god of war. His father is the Chinese god of war, and his grandfather is also a military god. Her brother is the youngest five-star general in China, and her mother's family is also very famous in the imperial capital. With such a background, Chu Tian City is like a young man from a small town in front of him, and there is no comparison between them. Chu Tian City snorted. He didn't know Yunshan's identity, but Yunshan's attitude at the moment made him very unhappy. Chu Tian City, don't waste time talking nonsense. If you want to bet on dogs, just tell me how to play. I'm in a hurry. Let's get this over with quickly, don't waste time, okay? Yi Wuliang urged, appearing very impatient. Fine, since you want to die early, I'll grant your wish. Follow me. Chu Tian City turned and walked towards the dog kennel. Yi Wuliang stretched his body and followed behind with Yunshan. Soon, they arrived at a field. In the field, there was a place 5 meters long and wide that was surrounded by iron. Inside the iron cage were 20 fierce dogs. Each one was fat and strong, with eyes that radiated the light of a wolf. These are not dogs, they are wolves. The biggest one was like a calf, with a shiny black coat and green eyes. Wah! At the moment Yi Wuliang appeared, the Tibetan Mastiff, which looked like a calf, actually let out a wolf howl. This Tibetan Mastiff King was purchased by me for 30 million. It was abandoned in the mountains as a child and grew up among wolves, and later became the Wolf King. When I first captured this Tibetan Mastiff, I had to send out 2 local cultivators to capture it. It took 3 years to fully tame it, and it has killed at least 10 people in its mouth. He even killed a beginner cultivator of the Earth realm. Chu Tian City's voice was cold. As he spoke, he looked at Yi Wuliang with a cold smile. Yi Wuliang, do you dare to walk into this iron cage and fight with 20 fierce dogs and the Tibetan Mastiff King? Chu Tian City directly shouted. Yi Wuliang frowned. What? Let me fight the dogs? At this moment, he understood what Chu Tiancheng was thinking. This guy wasn't here to bet on the dogs, but to deliberately make him feel sick. If he fights a dog, he will lose face no matter what the outcome is. If he lost, he would become a laughingstock and be said to be weaker than a dog, and he would be even weaker than a dog. If he wins, his reputation won't be good either. Yi Wuliang glanced over and saw several cameras not far away. It was clear that Chu Tiancheng also planned to record the event, so that no matter whether he won or lost, he could ruin his reputation. Yi Wuliang, why are you scared? Are you afraid? Gee, I thought you were so powerful, but you're afraid to even fight a dog. You're a coward. You're really a waste. Chu Tiancheng sneered. The two people in the dark and the one in the Tianyuan realm were quietly approaching, preparing to defend Yi Wuliang against Chu Tiancheng. At this moment, Chutian City dared to provoke and taunt Yi Wuliang so much because of the three people protecting him in the dark, giving him a good sense of confidence and not being afraid of Yi Wuliang. If these three people were not protecting him in the dark, even if he had the guts in the world, he would not dare to face Yi Wuliang and shout at him like this, and he would not dare to taunt and disgust Yi Wuliang in this way. Chapter 58, The Cage of the Fierce Dog. At this moment, Chu Tiancheng deliberately made Yi Wuliang feel sick. You think you're so great, you think you can fight? Fine, I'll arrange for you to fight a dog. Win. Then you are the man who fought the dog and won. You lost. Then you are trash who can't even beat a dog. When the video is posted online, the army of trolls will set the tone, and all kinds of online public opinion will drown you. At that time, even the Shin group will suffer. I have to say that this strategy of Chutian City is very vicious and treacherous. It is completely a double-edged sword. If it is successful, then he will be the ultimate winner. Yi Wuliang, give me a straight answer. Do you dare or not dare? If you don't dare, then... Chutian City continued to mock with a sneer. However, this time, he didn't finish his sentence, and Yi Wuliang interrupted him directly. Dare to? What's there to be afraid of? It's just a cage of animals. Do you think I can't even beat these animals? Yi Wuliang sneered. He looked at Chutian City with a mocking smile. The stakes are raised by one more. If you lose, I won't just take 10 billion, you'll also have to get into that iron cage and crawl on the ground and bark like a dog 10 times for me. That's it. Yi Wuliang then crossed his arms and looked at Chu Tiancheng with a smile, waiting for his answer. Chutian City's face suddenly turned ashen. What, now you're afraid to say yes? Ha, no wonder Huo Wu doesn't like you. You're such a coward. If any woman can like you, she's blind. A woman as outstanding as my wife Huo Wu doesn't like you, that's reasonable. Now, Yi Wuliang was mocking Chu Tiancheng. Chutian City's already unsightly face became even more unsightly, so gloomy that it was about to drip water. His fists were clenched so tightly that his knuckles turned white. Is this a provocation? Yi Wuliang, do you think you're going to win? You don't need to use provocation. I promise you, but on one condition. You only have 5 minutes. I will have the chains of these 20 fierce dogs all unlocked. You must hold out for 5 minutes without being bitten to death in this iron cage. In that case, even if you win. Chutian City said coldly. 5 minutes? Ha ha. I can do it in 10 minutes. Let's get started. Yi Wuliang acted as if he was not concerned. Okay, let's get started. Chutian City shouted, and immediately had his men unlock all the chains. As the chains were undone, the mastiff in the huge iron cage instantly became agitated, and it barked furiously at Yi Wuliang as if it had gone mad. Seeing this, Chutian City immediately sneered with pride. It seemed that he had already seen the scene of these mastiffs tearing Yi Wuliang to pieces. Yi Wuliang, I hope you can survive. These dogs, each one of them has been injected with stimulants and stimulants. Even if you are a cultivator, you definitely won't be able to withstand it. Not to mention the Tibetan Mastiff King, who ruled the wolves before being captured and could bite to death even a beginner at the local level. Now that he has been injected with stimulants and stimulants, his combat effectiveness will definitely be even higher. Can you survive? Yi Wuliang snickered and roared in his heart. It seemed that in his eyes, Yi Wuliang would be dead as soon as he stepped into the iron cage. Under his gaze, Yi Wuliang did not hesitate, directly opened the door of the iron cage and stepped into it. As soon as he entered, the iron door was immediately closed. At the same time, all the mastiffs pounced on Yi Wuliang. Yi Wuliang, you stupid fool, you're finished. Chutian City finally couldn't control his excitement and couldn't help but roar. However, the next second, Chu Tiancheng was dumbfounded, staring in shock, as if he had been struck by lightning. The reason was that before his roar had even finished, Yi Wuliang had entered the cage and let out a low growl, causing a gust of wind to blow around his body, which directly sent the fierce dogs that had been charging at him flying out. This was not the most shocking scene for Chu Tiancheng. What really stunned him was another scene. After the fierce dogs were blown away, they all lay on the ground trembling, and they did not pounce on Yi Wuliang again. In fact, several of the fierce dogs were so scared that they fell to the ground and defecated.
This scene left Chutian City dumbfounded. Chapter 59, Shocked. Ah, what's going on? Why are those dogs scared and urinating? Damn it, damn it. You animals, go and bite them. Hurry up and bite them. Chutian City couldn't help but roar. However, with his roar, the mastiffs in the iron cage were still too scared to approach Yi Wuliang. The current scene is very strange. Yi Wuliang is standing in the iron cage, surrounded by many mastiffs. However, he exudes a terrifying aura like the king of the mountain, which scares the dogs so much that they tremble and dare not approach him. It seems that Yi Wuliang is a tiger at this moment, and they are afraid of the tiger and dare not attack it. In fact, it is normal for this scene to occur. Yi Wuliang has been in the mountains for many years. When he is in the mountains, jackals and wolves see Yi Wuliang and take a detour, and tigers and leopards see Yi Wuliang and howl.
Yi Wuliang has long dominated the mountains, and jackals, wolves, tigers and leopards all see him as if they were seeing the king of hell, so they are scared and lie on the ground, not daring to move. Just imagine, if this is the case with tigers and leopards, how would these mastiffs dare to act wild in the face of Yi Wuliang, feeling the terrifying aura emanating from him?
At this moment,
whether it is the giant mastiff or the Tibetan mastiff king that has killed a cultivator of the earth realm, they are all trembling in fear of Yi Wuliang's aura. As time passed, many of the mastiffs were so scared that they collapsed on the ground, foaming at the mouth, and their urine and feces came out, turning them directly into useless dogs.
Ah, no, no. Why is this happening? Why is this happening? All of you, go and bite. Chutian City was about to collapse.
He shouted at the top of his lungs, his voice was hoarse, but it was useless. Originally, he thought that as long as Yi Wuliang entered the iron cage, whether Yi Wuliang won or lost, he could manipulate public opinion and make Yi Wuliang lose face and become a laughingstock.
But now,
Yi Wuliang entered the iron cage. He stood there like a king, and not a single mastiff dared to approach him. This made it impossible for him to slander Yi Wuliang. After all, the anticipated scene of Yi Wuliang and these mastiffs struggling in a mess did not come to pass, so how could he slander him and manipulate public opinion? He even thought that Yi Wuliang would not be able to get out alive and would die in the cage. But now, this is just a wishful thinking.
Chutian City roared in frustration.
Yi Wuliang turned around and looked at him with a smile. Chutian City, these dogs of yours are so trashy. I'm standing here and not one of them dares to come up and bite me.
Are you sure you're raising Tibetan mastiffs, not weak teddies?
Yi Wuliang's words were like a sharp slap in the face, slapping Chu Tiancheng hard in the face.
Chutian City was so angry that he almost vomited blood and fainted.
Under the angry gaze of Chu Tiancheng, Yi Wuliang suddenly walked towards the Tibetan Mastiff King, pressing one hand on the Tibetan Mastiff King's head.
The Tibetan Mastiff King trembled, completely unable to move, and let out a mournful howl. Chutian City panicked. Yi Wuliang, what do you want? Stop it. Chutian City roared. Bang! However, Yi Wuliang didn't pay any attention to him at all, and his palm violently pressed down. In an instant, the Tibetan Mastiff King's head exploded, and he died instantly. Ah, no. Chutian City's throat was about to burst. This is the divine dog he spent 30 million to buy, but now it was blasted to death by a palm, which he couldn't accept. He roared, covering his chest with his hands, and almost spat out a mouthful of blood. Ah, can't bear it? This is just a dog, and you don't even have the ability to bear it. Are you a waste?
Yi Wuliang laughed loudly, taunting with pride.
Ah, the boss is so powerful and domineering, and he's hitting Chu the idiot in the face so hard, it's so cool, really so cool.
Outside the ring, Yunshan waved his little fist, excitedly cheering for Yi Wuliang, completely ignoring the murderous look in Chutian City's eyes.
Chapter 60, Making a Choice. At this moment,
Yunsan shouted excitedly, and Shutianqing was about to burst into tears.
Yi Wuliang, I want you dead.
The Tibetan Mastiff King cost him 30 million yuan to buy, and after buying it, he invested tens of millions of yuan in the Tibetan Mastiff King. He hired the best nutritionist and dog trainer in the country to tame the Tibetan Mastiff King. Although after 3 years, he had only tamed some of the wildness and not completely tamed it, Chu Tiancheng loved this Tibetan Mastiff to the bone. Now, Yi Wuliang is directly pinching the Tibetan Mastiff's head in front of him. That feeling makes Chu Tiancity feel like his own son is being pinched to death in front of him. It made him completely furious and uncontrollable.
Humph, do you think you can kill me?
Yi Wuliang sneered, and a murderous aura of bloodlust suddenly spread from his body. In the iron cage, the moment the murderous aura spread, all the mastiffs let out a wail, and then the next second, they all died suddenly.
All of them bled from their 7 orifices. They died instantly.
This scene once again left Chu Tiancheng dumbfounded, as if he had been struck by lightning and frozen in place.
Yi Wuliang walked towards the door of the iron cage.
He kicked open the iron gate with one foot, and the chain broke apart. He walked out easily.
Humph, you lost, Chu Tiancity. Now all your guard dogs are dead, and the outcome is clear. You should pay up.
The billion-yuan bet will be transferred to my card immediately, and then you can crawl in and learn to bark like a dog.
Remember, you have to learn it on the ground, and you have to do it 10 times.
Yi Wuliang said slowly.
Pop, pop. His deliberate reminder was like 2 crisp slaps in the face. Chu Tiancity's forehead veins bulged, and his eyes were ablaze with madness. Chu Tiancity, are you still planning to be a bad boy like last time?
Yi Wuliang looked at him and said lightly, you can be a bad loser or not bark like a dog, but the prerequisite is, you have to take 10 slaps from me. At the stone market, Chu Tiancheng said that if he lost, he would kneel down and kowtow 3 times. After losing, he refused to accept defeat, so Yi Wuliang immediately gave him 3 slaps to offset the 3 loud knocks.
Now,
if he intends to continue to be a bad loser, Yi Wuliang doesn't mind, and he will give him 18 slaps to offset the 3 loud knocks.
Yi Wuliang, don't be so arrogant. Today, you can't touch me. Chu Tiancity said coldly.
Swish, swish, swish. As soon as the voice fell, the 3 masters hiding in the dark appeared directly.
The leader was none other than the one at the beginning of the Tianyuan realm. The remaining 2 are at the local realm.
Ah, Chu Tiancity, is this your confidence? If these 3 are your trump card, then I can only say that you won't be able to escape the 10 slaps today.
Yi Wuliang spoke with disdain. He then walked forward, approaching Chu Tiancheng.
As he got closer, his aura continued to rise. Very quickly, he released a breath that surpassed the Tianyuan realm. The next second, he appeared directly in front of Chu Tiancheng, and then 2 muffled sounds rang out.
No one could see clearly how he made his move.
All that could be seen was that the moment he approached Chu Tiancheng, the 2 powerful UNG cultivators next to him directly vomited blood into the air.
At the same time,
Yi Wuliang punched out.
He punched the early-stage Tianyuan cultivator in the abdomen. Pop.
The opponent spits out a mouthful of blood, flies out, and lies on the ground unable to get up.
3 masters. In less than a second, Yi Wuliang knocked them to the ground with lightning speed. Their realm and combat effectiveness were far inferior to Yi Wuliang's.
Ah, no.
No.
Chu Tiancity reacted, his face full of horror. He had brought these 3 masters to escort him, but now Yi Wuliang had instantly crushed them. Ha, Chu Tiancheng, I told you, these 3 bodyguards of yours are just trash in front of me. Even if they were all together, they wouldn't be my match.
Now do you believe me? Yi Wuliang raised his hand and grabbed Chu Tiancity's neck. You choose for yourself. Do you want me to slap you 10 times, or do you want to go into the cage and learn to bark like a dog 10 times? Have you made your choice? Chapter 61, You Win, You Lose. At this moment, Chu Tiancheng looked at Yi Wuliang in horror. To be honest, he never dreamed that Yi Wuliang would be so powerful. The early-stage powerful people he brought with him were all killed in a split second. What realm are you in? Could it be that you have reached the pinnacle of the Tianyuan realm? This is impossible, absolutely impossible.
Chu Tiancheng shook his head in fear.
Yi Wuliang didn't say anything, just smiling at him.
Boss, don't waste your breath on this loser. He's definitely not going to bark like a dog, so just beat him up.
Do you need me to help you beat him up?
I'm a very good spanker.
Let me do it for you. I can take this opportunity to have some fun. I haven't beaten anyone up in a long time.
Spruce came forward, rolled up his sleeves, and said with a wicked smile.
You? Yi Wuliang looked at him. Okay, since you want to smoke, I'll leave it to you. Use more force when you smoke. With that, Yi Wuliang threw the man to Yunshan. Yunshan was overjoyed. He thought Yi Wuliang would refuse, but who knew that Yi Wuliang would agree? Ah, no, don't smoke me. I'm the eldest son of the Chu family. You'll be punished for smoking me.
Chu Tiancheng shouted angrily, but no one paid any attention to him. Yunshan grabbed him by the collar and slapped him hard. Slap, slap, slap. He was beaten 3 times in a row, and after just 3 slaps, he was already dying from the pain, almost fainting, and blood was even flowing from his mouth. Stop, you guys, stop. How dare you do this to the son of the Chu family? Are you all tired of living? If the Chu family finds out that you treated the young master like this, they will never let you go. Tianyuan Jing, who was lying on the ground, yelled furiously. Shut up! Yunsan roared, the Chu family is nothing, why should I be afraid of them? Do you think I care about them, you scum? Spruce, keep going, don't hold back. Yi Wuliang said. On hearing this, Yunsan promised, and then continued to beat him even harder. Pat, pat, pat. 3 more slaps fell. This time, Chu Tiancheng's teeth were knocked out, and blood spurted from his mouth. His face was swollen and red like a pig's head. Yunshan continued. Soon, after 10 slaps, Chu Tiancheng collapsed on the ground like a dead dog. Chutian City, there are still 10 billion, hurry up and transfer it to me. You know, you have to honor your bets. If you don't, I'll give you 10,000 slaps. Gee, 10,000 slaps, you'll be dead from the blows. Yi Wuliang said with a smile. As soon as he said this, Chutian City immediately began to tremble wildly, and his face also revealed infinite fear. He suddenly looked up. His teeth were clenched and his eyes were bloodshot. Fine, I'll give you 10 billion. I can afford it, but Yi Wuliang, you remember this is not the end. I will definitely be looking for you in the future. You just wait and see. Chutian City's teeth were about to be crushed. After hearing his words, Yi Wuliang was not nervous at all, but instead laughed and seemed very happy. Fine, as long as you don't lack money, then you can come to me anytime and challenge me. As long as the money is in place, or the stakes are in place, I will accompany you to the end of whatever you want to play. But I'll tell you this up front. If you want to play with me in the future, the bet should be at least 1 billion. If it's less than that, don't come out and embarrass yourself, understand? Yi Wuliang laughed and then urged Chu Tiancheng to pay up again. At this moment, the 3 masters brought by Chu Tiancheng were all lying on the ground like dead dogs, and he dared not make too much noise or resist. Chapter 62, Bloating. Soon, Chu Tiancheng transferred the money. After receiving the money, Yi Wuliang did not continue to make things difficult for him, and immediately left with Yunshan. Seeing Yi Wuliang disappear, Chu Tiancheng fell to the ground, his good arm clenched into a fist, hammering the ground furiously, and his mouth constantly emitting angry roars. Once again, he suffered a loss, and this made his hatred for Yi Wuliang reach a whole new level. Chen's family, study. At this moment, the Chen family had already heard the news that Chu Tiancheng had been severely beaten by Yi Wuliang. Chen Wen called Chen Xiaojun. He told him again not to act rashly, not to try to take action against Yi Wuliang, and just to wait and see what would happen, and continue to watch the battle between Chutian City and Yi Wuliang. They, the Chen family, could sit back and watch the two fight without getting involved. He knows his son too well. He was worried that Chen Xiaojun would not be able to suppress his hatred for Yi Wuliang and would make a rash move, so he called him over and gave him a lecture. After giving him a lecture in the study, he let Chen Xiaojun leave. However, Chen Wen never imagined that after Chen Xiaojun left, he directly called his subordinates and whispered to them, and what he told them was the plan to deal with Yi Wuliang. Obviously. Even though Chen Wen had warned him, Chen Xiaojun still ignored his father's advice and had no intention of listening. Humph. Yi Wuliang, I don't believe you're that difficult to deal with. The losses and humiliation I suffered at the Qin family's hands, I, Chen Xiaojun, will never forget. Since that trash from Chutian City can't kill you, then I, Chen Xiaojun, will personally take action to show you how powerful I am. Chen Xiaojun gritted his teeth and spoke coldly. He felt that he had absolute confidence that he could take care of Yi Wuliang, and that the plan would be absolutely foolproof if it was executed successfully.
There are two sides to every story.
After Yi Wuliang finished cleaning up Chutian City, he returned to his residence, where Xin Huowu and Li Qingyi were no longer there. Xin Huowu, as the company president, had already gone to the company to handle business, and Li Qingyi was also free at the moment, so she went with him and temporarily served as Xin Huowu's personal assistant and part-time bodyguard. After returning, Yi Wuliang moved a rocking chair and leisurely lay in the courtyard and chatted with Yunshan. From Japanese movies to American blockbusters, the two were so excited that they were full of energy. Especially when they got to some exciting parts, the two couldn't help but clap their hands in admiration. Just when they were in the middle of a lively conversation, Yi Wuliang's phone rang, and it showed Xin Huowu's number.
Hey, honey, you suddenly called me. Do you miss your husband? Don't worry, I'll go to the company to find you and bring you some warmth. After answering the phone, Yi Wuliang smiled wickedly and got up to walk outside, ready to go to the Xin group. Humph, who would want a scoundrel like you? Don't flatter yourself. I'm working on a document right now, and after I'm done, I'm going shopping with Qingyi. I don't have time to think about you. Don't come to the company, just go straight to the Antique Street. My father is waiting for you at the Shanju Tea House on the Antique Street. Xin Huowu's tone was a little gloating.
Yi Wuliang's feet were about to take a step outside, but after hearing Xin Huowu's words, they immediately froze in place, as if he had been struck by lightning.
Wife, you, who do you mean who wants to see me? Yi Wuliang stammered. My dad. Why, are you afraid to see him? Shen Huowu gloated.
Yi Wuliang shuddered and his heart began to beat rapidly. Xin Huowu's father, that is, his father-in-law, he is not even psychologically prepared, and his father-in-law has to see him.
This makes Yi Wuliang a little confused and a little stage fright. I'm not talking to you anymore. I'm busy.
You should go to the Shanju Tea House on Antique Street right now.
This is your first time meeting my father. If you're late, you'll give my father a bad impression, and I won't let you off the hook. After that, Xin Huowu hung up the phone.
Yi Wuliang was left alone in the courtyard, holding the phone and so nervous that he could not cry.
Chapter 63, Shanju Tea House. Boss, what's going on? Your father-in-law wants to meet you?
Geez. Then you'd better hurry and behave yourself. The first rule of the survival manual for Chinese sons-in-law is to make a good impression on your father-in-law and mother-in-law.
If you are late, you are dead. Seeing Yi Wuliang's sad expression, Yunshan bloated. Boom!
Yi Wuliang kicked Yunshan in the fat on his butt with a depressed expression and scolded him, "You fat bastard, can you stop gloating?"
Oh, boss, I'm telling the truth. Don't waste any more time, go quickly. If you're late, you'll be the one to suffer.
Spruce hurriedly shouted.
Well, I'm going. If you're bored, go out and find some fun on your own. I can't take care of you anymore.
Yi Wuliang said this and immediately ran off without a trace.
Antique Street. Shanju Tea House. Yi Wuliang came to express his intentions and was taken to the third floor by the receptionist.
Today, the third floor of the Shanju Tea House was rented out by Shani, and there was only one other guest on the entire third floor.
Yi Wuliang followed the receptionist to the third floor and was really a bit nervous. There are tables and private rooms on the third floor.
At the moment, Shani was not in the private room, but was sitting in a window seat. Yi Wuliang saw him as soon as he got upstairs.
Oh, my son-in-law is here, little bastard. Hurry up and come over and let me take a look.
Gee, he's quite handsome, not bad, not bad, he's 100 times more handsome than I was when I was young.
Just after they met, Yi Wuliang hadn't had a chance to speak when Shani burst out laughing. Yi Wuliang's mouth twitched.
I have to say, although my cheap father-in-law is already in his 50s, I can tell from his still handsome appearance that he must have been a handsome guy when he was young. It's only natural to think that if Shani was ugly, how could he have given birth to a daughter as beautiful as Xin Huowu? Ah, you are Huowu's father, my cheap father-in-law. It's the first time we've met, and I didn't bring you a gift, so please forgive me.
Yi Wuliang smiled a little awkwardly. Hey, gifts are just material things. Shani waved his hand in a very easy manner, completely not caring
about these details. He asked Yi Wuliang to sit across from him, and his eyes were on Yi Wuliang, carefully examining him. After Yi Wuliang was brought up by the receptionist, he went downstairs, and the entire third floor was left with only Yi Wuliang and Shani.
At this moment,
The two of them were staring at each other, neither of them speaking, and the atmosphere was slightly awkward. Just as Yi Wuliang was racking his brains, trying to think of something to talk about with Shen. "Kid, how far have you and my daughter gotten? Have you kissed yet?" Shen suddenly opened his mouth and stared at him with a gossipy look on his face. "Huh?" Yi Wuliang was stunned. "What's with that look? If you haven't kissed her, just say so. What are you embarrassed about? But, judging from your expression, you must have kissed her already. So, what stage are you at now?" Shen reached out and made a grabbing motion, the classic Lonso hand. "Have you done this? Have you progressed to this step?" Yi Wuliang was stunned again and shouted in his heart, "Damn it! This cheap father-in-law is too open-minded. We just met for the first time, and you're asking me such a provocative question?" Yi Wuliang thought he was shameless enough, but compared to this cheap father-in-law, his shamelessness was just childish. This one is the supreme professor of shamelessness. Cough, cough. Yi Wuliang coughed and was embarrassed to answer. "Oh, why are you so shocked? Have you slept with Huo Wu already? My goodness, you've only known each other for a few days and you've already slept together. Huo Wu is always very picky and doesn't like any man, but you've managed to get her in just a few days. You're quite the player." Shen widened his eyes and gave Yi Wuliang a thumbs up. Yi Wuliang was completely disorganized and stunned. Chapter 64, God-Level Father-in-Law. At this moment, Yi Wuliang never dreamed that his father-in-law would have such a personality. This is shameless, and he can say anything, completely without taboos. Cough, cough. Yi Wuliang coughed embarrassedly, not daring to let him continue, and hurriedly said, "Uncle Shen, you misunderstood. Huo Wu and I haven't progressed to the final step. I am a righteous man." Pop. He didn't finish his sentence. Shen slapped him directly on the head. "Hey, you're so useless. I thought you and Huo Wu had already clapped your hands together, but it turns out you haven't. Hey, it's a waste of this good-looking body. You're too disappointing. You're not bad-looking, you have a bit of my old self in you, so even if you slept with Huo Wu, you'd both be fine, but you're useless." He finished. He looked at Yi Wuliang with a look of hatred and disappointment. Pop. Yi Wuliang almost spat a mouthful of old blood in Shen Yi's face. "Oh, God, please save me. My cheap father-in-law, which god has come down to earth to become? I didn't sleep with your daughter, but you still look disappointed. Is that any way for a father to behave? And, I'm so handsome, but you said I only have a little bit of your youthful charm. You're shameless, aren't you? Even if you were 20 years younger, you would still not be as handsome as I am, right?" Yi Wuliang was speechless and rolled his eyes wildly. "Uncle Shen, I, Yi Wuliang, am a genuine gentleman, a modern-day Lu Xiaowei, not greedy for money, not lustful, and my relationship with Huo Wu is pure." Yi Wuliang rolled his eyes and then said in a serious tone. "Bah, you call yourself a gentleman? If you are a gentleman, then what about Auntie Run? What about Li Qingyi, do you think I don't know?" Shen looked at Yi Wuliang with contempt. "Gah!" Yi Wuliang was speechless. Shen said with a deep understanding of justice, "You don't need to be nervous. I am a very open-minded person. Men, especially capable men, have 3 wives and 4 concubines. Just like me. Huo Wu's mother died early, and I now have 4 wives alone, not to mention the many lovers, both big and small, that I have. Forgive me for saying this, but in my heart, my favorite is still Huo Wu's mother. As long as a man is in love with a woman and loves and cares for her wholeheartedly, it doesn't matter if there are other women around." Shen spoke with confidence. Yi Wuliang opened his mouth wide and gave Shen a thumbs up, convinced. Shen said, "I'm not going to bullshit with you. I've come to talk to you about 2 important matters. I heard that you are a great doctor, right? You have excellent medical skills and are very fortunate, right?" "Yes." Yi Wuliang nodded. "Well, then, hurry up and give me some pills or something. Hey. I'm getting older now, and I'm getting weaker. Since you are a doctor, then give me some of that stuff, you know?" Shen smiled lewdly and kept winking at Yi Wuliang. Yi Wuliang almost fell to the ground, his mouth twitching wildly. "Hey, did you hear what I said? You are Huo Wu's future husband. In that case, I am also your future father. Give your father some pills to replenish his body. Let me go out to save the charming young woman who longs for love and warmth in her heart. Spread the seeds of love, and fill this cold world with love.
Is this difficult for you? Chen looked at Yi Wulian's expression and immediately slammed his hand on the table, his face full of seriousness and indignation. After that, he looked at Yi Wuliang with a stern expression and said angrily, "Kid, do you know how hard it is for me? I have sacrificed so much to make this world full of love." He was so moved that he was about to cry. Looking at that expression, it seems that what he said was so lofty and noble, and he was willing to do everything for it, even to the point of giving up his life. Pa! Yi Wuliang just drank the tea in his mouth and spit it out directly. No problem, no problem. Uncle Bai, this is what my master's wife gave me when I came down the mountain. Take one a month and you'll be in peak condition for the rest of your life. Yi Wuliang quickly took out a porcelain bottle and handed it to Chen. At the same time, he shouted in his heart. If there is a list of shameless people, my cheap father-in-law would be second to none. Chapter 65, The Shao Family Disaster. Now, Yi Wuliang is completely overwhelmed by the shamelessness of his own father-in-law. At this moment, Chen patted him on the shoulder and said, "Kid, you and Huo Wu are a perfect match. I support you two being together. But you also need to have a sense of crisis. Understand? To tell you the truth, some time ago, Huo Wu went to a business party and was spotted by the Shao family's eldest son, who threatened to get Huo Wu." Chen slowly opened his mouth. Yi Wuliang's face immediately fell when he heard this. Chen continued, "If nothing goes wrong, in a few days, the young master of the Shao family will come to Jiangzhou City, and I'm afraid he will start a crazy pursuit of Huo Wu. The young master of the Shao family seems to be called Shao Wushu, and he is also said to be a handsome guy." "Shao Wugu? If he dares to plot against me and steal my wife, I'll beat him into a dog." Yi Wuliang immediately spoke up, raising his fist, "I'll beat him once he comes, 10 times if he comes 10 times, so that he'll be scared when he sees me. If he still doesn't get the message, I'll beat him into a sheep's tail, hee hee." "Good boy, you have guts, I admire you." Chen laughed heartily, very satisfied. His own son-in-law must be upright and resolute, and must not be timid. At this moment, Chen could not find a single fault with Yi Wuliang's performance, and felt that Yi Wuliang's performance was perfect. Just as he was laughing and patting Yi Wuliang on the shoulder, suddenly, a grumpy voice came from downstairs. Chen, you're so pretentious. Is this mountain residence tea house your family's? You want to rent it out, then rent it out. No one else is afraid of you. Grandpa Chenwu is not afraid of you, but I am going to have tea on the 3rd floor. I dare anyone to stop me." The angry voice rang out. Soon, the sound of footsteps could be heard, and soon a man came to the 3rd floor. After this person came upstairs, he glared at Chen. "I, Chenwu, want to come upstairs to have a cup of tea. Do you have any objections?" Chen frowned. But before he could say anything, Chen Wu's gaze fell on Yi Wuliang, and his brows furrowed even more than Chen Yi's. "Yi Wuliang, why are you here?" Chen Wu said in a low voice. Yi Wuliang was full of questions. "Hey, this is going to be a good show. Son-in-law. This is Chen Shejuan's uncle, Chen Shejuan's uncle. You just arrived in Jiangzhou City, and the day you went to the Qin family, you really gave Chen Xiaojun a hard time. Today you met his second uncle, and it's going to be a lively day." Chen ignored Chen Wu and instead looked at Yi Wuliang with a smile. Yi Wuliang heard this. His eyes then officially swept over Chen Wu. "I thought it was someone else, but it turns out to be Chen Xiujuan's useless uncle. I said, this 3rd floor has been rented out by my father-in-law. What are you doing here? Just for a cup of tea, you have to force your way upstairs. Are all of you from the Chen family so rude and shameless?" Yi Wuliang still sat there, stretching and yawning, and said indifferently. His words were full of obvious sarcasm. Chen didn't say anything, but just picked up his teacup and savored the tea, watching the fun with a smile. You really are sharp-tongued." Chen Wu spoke in a cold voice, looking at Yi Wuliang with murderous intent in his eyes. But he remembered what his brother had told him. At this stage, the Chen family should not make an enemy of Yi Wuliang. They only needed to sit back and watch the battle between Chutian City and Yi Wuliang. By then, they will be fighting until they are bloody and broken, and the Chen family will only need to reap the benefits of the fishermen.
Therefore, even though Chen Wu was very angry when he saw Yi Wuliang, and wanted to teach Yi Wuliang a lesson to avenge his nephew Chen Xiaojun, he still kept breathing deeply to suppress the anger in his heart. However, although he suppressed his anger, he did not intend to let Yi Wuliang off the hook. Since they have met, if he doesn't do something and leaves in a huff, wouldn't that be a disgrace to the Chen family? Humph, kid. Don't try to show off your mouth here. If you have the guts, then let's play some real games with your grandpa Chen Wu. Chen Wu said coldly. He then looked up, his hands behind his back, and said coldly. It's better to come at the right time than to come early. Since we met on the antique street, you must know something about antique calligraphy and paintings. Kid, it's pointless to show off your eloquence. If you have the guts, then let's have a contest of eyesight and a bet on antiques, and see who wins in this area. Do you dare? Chapter 66, the 58th Division Mother's Special Skill. Chen Wu narrowed his eyes and fixed his gaze on Yi Wuliang like a knife. Antique gambling? Yi Wuliang almost burst out laughing. The 58th Division's wife, who is fair-skinned, beautiful, and naturally charming, can make you lose your soul just by looking at her. She collects countless treasures and antiques from ancient and modern times, both Chinese and foreign. His knowledge and familiarity with all kinds of antiques is absolutely top-notch, if not invincible. Chen Wu is actually challenging him to a bet on antiques. Isn't he looking for trouble? Ha, Chen Wu, are you sure you want to bet on antiques with me? No problem. I love betting with people. But the stakes have to be high enough to make me want to bet. I'm fine with betting, but what's the stake? Yi Wuliang looked at Chen Wu. This moment. Chen Wu was in his eyes, a completely ignorant lamb who came to the door and humiliated himself. Son-in-law, are you really sure? Chen Wu is extremely fond of antiques. He is considered a semi-expert in antiques. You are still young. Do you know much about antiques? Shen Yi was a little worried and whispered. Don't worry, I can play this guy to death even if I don't look with my eyes and just rely on my hands to touch. Yi Wuliang said with confidence. Chen Wu snorted, Humph, you're very confident, kid. Cut the crap and get to the point. I don't want to hear any more nonsense. Yi Wuliang stretched and said lightly. Okay, I'll say it. You taught my nephew a very harsh lesson before, and since I've met you today, I have to avenge my nephew. I won't make things difficult for you. If you lose the bet on antiques, you can just slap yourself 10 times in public. You say you won't make it difficult, but you're going to slap yourself in public, and 10 times at that. If you really lose, you'll have to do this. That would really be a loss of face. Gee, it's so exciting, okay, yes. Yi Wuliang didn't even think about it before he immediately said with a smile, what if you lose? After saying that, he didn't wait for Chen Wu to answer. He looked through the third-floor window and saw a brand-new luxury car below. Chen Wu, is that car down there yours? Yi Wuliang asked. He had just seen Chen Wu get out of that car and enter the tea house. Chen Wu, if you lose, then you do it yourself, smash your car in public until it is scrapped, how about it? Yi Wuliang said indifferently. It doesn't matter if you slap yourself in public or smash your car to pieces. In fact, it's all a matter of losing face, and it will be a laughingstock if it gets out. This time, the antique bet. It's not about money, it's about face. The loser is destined to lose face today and become the butt of jokes for a long time to come. Dare you? Say something. If you don't dare, I won't laugh at you. Yi Wuliang opened his mouth and looked at Chen Wu playfully. Chen Wu's face was gloomy. Chen Wu, my son-in-law is talking to you. Do you dare or not? If you don't dare, then get out of here. After all, your family has been shameless for a long time, hee hee. Shen Yi, who had never spoken up, now looked at Shen Yi with a smile on his face, resting his hands behind his head. He said, I just came here for a cup of tea, and you came looking for trouble. Since you're looking for trouble, you should be prepared to get slapped in the face. So, do you dare to accept the conditions my son-in-law has proposed? Do you dare to play? His words, falling into Chen Wu's ears, were full of provocation. If Chen Wu backs down at this point, he won't be able to hold his face. Oomph, it's just a car. What's there to be afraid of? Fine. I promise. But if you lose, that little bastard Yi Wuliang will slap himself in public. If I lose, I'll smash the new car I just bought with my own hands. Chen Wu gritted his teeth and agreed. Yi Wuliang's eyes lit up. Today, Chen Wu's car is definitely going to be scrapped. Chapter 67 Tonggu Pavilion. Tonggu Pavilion is a relatively famous shop on the antique street. The antique gambling is to find a reliable shop and let the shop take out some genuine and fake goods mixed together. The two people gambling are to take out the genuine or fake goods from them. For example, 10 items of 5 grades. 5 of them are real and 5 are fake. If the two sides are competing to pick out the fake items, then whoever finds all 5 fake items first wins. If the competition is to pick out the real items, then whoever picks out the 5 real items first is the winner. Tonggu Pavilion Hall. At this moment, 4 tables are brought together in the spacious hall of the Tonggu Pavilion. The tables are covered with porcelain, calligraphy, jade carvings, a total of 20 pieces of art. Of these 20 items, 5 are fake. Yi Wuliang and Chen Wu are now competing to see who can pick out the 5 fakes. After the shopkeeper of Tonggu Pavilion arranged for the objects to be displayed, he began to introduce the rules of the competition with a smile. After the start of the bet, you will each have 1 hour to make your selection. Within an hour, whoever can identify the 5 fake items first will be the winner. Of course, it's not just a race against time, but also a race against accuracy. If you pick the wrong one, you will need to add 10 minutes to your time limit. For example, if you take exactly 1 hour to pick out 5 fake items, but 3 of them are wrong, you will need to add 30 minutes, which means you will have a total of 90 minutes to pick out 5 fake items. The other person, if he also picks out 5 fake products in an hour, but he only picks out 2 wrong ones, then he would have spent 80 minutes to pick out 5 fake products, and he would have won. If neither of them picks out 5 fake products in an hour, then the number of fake products picked out is the number of fake products picked out. As for the number of fake products not picked out, it is treated as if they were picked out. If one fake product is not picked out, then 10 minutes are added. Do you understand the rules? The shopkeeper slowly opened his mouth and stated the rules. At this moment, in addition to Chen Wu, Shen Yi, and Yi Wuliang, there were also many onlookers who came to watch the fun after hearing the news. As the shopkeeper's voice fell, Chen Wu looked up proudly and said, "I understand the rules. This isn't the first time I've come to gamble." He then looked at Yi Wuliang. "Kid, did you understand the rules? If you understand, then let's cut the crap and start the countdown and start the bet." Chen Wu's tone was arrogant, and his eyes were a bit provocative. Yi Wuliang laughed, "I understand the rules, but I think that giving an hour to choose is too long. It's just 5 fake items, so I think half a minute is enough, and there's no need for an hour. Giving such a long time to choose is a waste of time and a waste of life." He shook his head and said, seemingly very dissatisfied. However, as soon as he said this, Chen Wu suddenly narrowed his eyes and angrily said, "Do you know what you're talking about? Half a minute. Are you out of your mind? Or did you get your head stuck in the door? Otherwise, how could you say such nonsense?" He shouted angrily. At the same time, he glared at Yi Wuliang with anger. Antique gambling, selecting fake goods. It is extremely challenging to test one's eyesight and knowledge of antiques, and it is extremely time-consuming and mentally exhausting. In Chen Wu's opinion, it was extremely difficult to select 5 pieces from 20 in an hour, and it required full concentration and undisturbed attention to complete. But Yi Wuliang actually said here that it didn't take an hour, that it was a waste of time, and that it only took half a minute to select. To him, Yi Wuliang was talking nonsense, stupid nonsense. Only someone with a watered-down brain could say such stupid things. Not only did he think so, but those around him who came in to watch the fun all thought the same way. Chapter 68, 1001 Nights. At this moment, everyone's eyes were on Yi Wuliang. After he said that it didn't take an hour to choose, but only half a minute, he immediately became the focus of the entire audience. "Ha, this kid is so arrogant, he can actually say such nonsense. Yes, he said it would take half a minute to pick out 5 fake antiques from 20. Is he a man with a golden eye? Does he think that he can tell which one is a fake just by looking at it? Young people don't know the world, so it's understandable that they say some nonsense. Ha, I don't understand a damn thing. I'd say he's never been beaten up by society, and he's just a purebred loser." Everyone spoke up. Everyone, including the manager of Tonggu Pavilion and Chen Wu, all looked at Yi Wuliang with a look of derision, as if they were looking at a fool.
Only Chen was calm. He knew that Yi Wuliang was no ordinary person. Therefore,
now Chen felt that perhaps Yi Wuliang's words were not nonsense, but were based on something.
"Oh, you don't believe I can pick out 5 fake items in half a minute, do you?"
He heard the crowd's taunts. Yi Wuliang immediately laughed out loud, and then looked around the audience with a smile. "Well, since everyone doesn't believe me, then come out and bet with me.
I don't mind adding some extra stakes." "Oomph, kid, what kind of bet do you want? Say it."
As soon as he finished speaking, someone stood up.
Yi Wuliang stretched and said lazily, "It's very simple. I bet that I can accurately select 5 fake products in half a minute. If I win, you give me 100 million. If I lose, I give you 100 million. How about it?"
As soon as he said this, the man who stood up immediately looked a little bit scared.
"Damn, you don't have 100 million, do you?"
Yi Wuliang immediately shook his head. "If you don't have any money, just stay where you are and don't come out and pretend to be someone else.
It's really boring."
He also looked at the man with contempt. Immediately, the man blushed and was ashamed.
"Oomph, Yi, what are you up to?"
Suddenly, Chen Wu said coldly, "Now it's just you and me in a duel."
"I have you, so why bring anyone else into it? You said you didn't need an hour, but only half a minute to pick out the 5 fake items, right? Do you want to raise the stakes?"
Chen Wu narrowed his eyes and said coldly, "Okay, if you want to raise the stakes, I, Chen Wu, can go all the way with you."
Upon hearing this, Yi Wuliang's eyes lit up.
Chen Wu said coldly, 100 million is not interesting. If you want to play 500 million.
If you can really pick out 5 fake items in half a minute, then I, Chen Wu, can give you an additional 500 million. Of course, if you can't, then you give me 500 million, how about that?
Chen Wu's voice was low and full of confidence. He didn't believe that Yi Wuliang could pick out the 5 fake items in half a minute. In his opinion, it was simply impossible, and it was completely unrealistic.
20 items. That's 20 items.
To pick out 5 fake items in half a minute is the same as looking at each item for 1.5 seconds and judging its authenticity within 1.5 seconds.
Is that possible? It's completely impossible.
Therefore, he firmly believes that Yi Wuliang's claim that he can pick out the fake ones in half a minute is pure nonsense.
Only someone with a brain full of holes would say something so stupid. "Oomph, Chen.
Your son-in-law is really a talent. He is a contemporary talent of the level of the legendary geniuses." After Chen Wu made the bet of 500 million, he looked at Chen and said with a mocking expression. And when he said the words Wulong Fengshu, the words were full of contempt and belittling, and there was not the slightest praise. After saying that, he looked at Yi Wuliang again, with a mocking expression and a cold voice. "Kid, do you dare to take on the additional 500 million bet?
If you don't dare, then admit it. It's not a shame." Chapter 69, Like Falling into a Dream. Chen Wu smiled cruelly. The look in his eyes as he looked at Yi Wuliang was full of contempt and disdain.
The people watching the fun around him also had the same look as Chen Wu, as well as the manager of Tonggu Pavilion.
"Young man, don't be too young and reckless.
Even if you were given an hour, you wouldn't necessarily be able to pick out all 5 of the fake items. Therefore, I advise you to withdraw your words and be low-key, lest you be slapped in the face," the shopkeeper of Tonggu Pavilion said with a blank expression. Although he was expressionless, if you looked closely, you could see a hint of disdain on his face.
"Hey!" Upon hearing their words, Yi Wuliang sighed. "It's really sad. Nowadays, no one believes a word of truth.
I was so sad that I was not trusted even though I was only picking out a few fake items."
As he said this, Yi Wuliang looked at the shopkeeper. "Shopkeeper, you don't believe that I can pick out the fake goods in half a minute, do you?"
"Oomph." The shopkeeper didn't say anything, just snorted. But this snort already contained too much.
"Fine, since you don't believe me, let's make a bet. I bet that I can find all 5 fake items in half a minute.
If I do, then I will destroy all 5 fake items and not pay you a penny in compensation."
Yi Wuliang quickly spoke. "Okay, no problem.
Kid, if you can really do what you say, then not only will you not have to pay for the 5 fake products, I will even let you choose 5 of the remaining 15 authentic products to take away with you for free," the shopkeeper of Tonggu said calmly.
After that, he looked up and continued, "But if you can't choose, then you lose, and you have to give Master Chen 2 kowtows in public to make him feel better." Obviously, he also completely disbelieved Yi Wuliang, and his words also revealed one thing, that is, the owner of Tonggu Pavilion and Chen Wu have a close relationship. Yi Wuliang heard the words of the shopkeeper and immediately sneered. Chen Wu next to him laughed hysterically. "Ha ha ha, interesting, more and more interesting. Yi. You just want to die, don't you? Now that there is a 500 million bet, plus the 3 bows of the Tonggu Pavilion's manager, do you still dare to take it?" He shouted angrily. "Of course I dare. Why wouldn't I?" Yi Wuliang didn't think twice before speaking directly. After that, he didn't want to waste any more time, and looked directly at Chen Wu and the Tonggu Pavilion owner. Then the next second, he grabbed a jade ruby and smashed it to the ground. Crack! The jade ruby shattered instantly. Before anyone could react, Yi Wuliang picked up another piece of porcelain and smashed it to pieces on the ground. Then, he picked up 2 paintings in calligraphy without giving anyone time to react, and tore them into pieces in an instant. After all this, it was less than 10 seconds. The entire audience was silent. At this point, Yi Wuliang lazily picked up an inkstone and smashed it to pieces. In the span of 15 seconds, Yi Wuliang took out 5 fake artifacts and destroyed them. Everyone present was stunned, and Shani was also dumbfounded. He had never expected Yi Wuliang to be so decisive. Everyone looked at him blankly, but the Tonggu Pavilion manager was pale and his pupils were contracting violently. The next second, the Tonggu Pavilion manager backed out, beads of sweat rolling down his forehead, his face pale and bloodless, and his body shaking violently. The reason was none other than the fact that the 5 items that Yi Wuliang destroyed were indeed all fakes. Yi Wuliang said it would take less than half a minute to pick out the fakes, but in reality, the time he spent was only 14 or 15 seconds. Half a minute is to accurately select 5 fake items, which made the Tonggu Pavilion manager unable to believe his own eyes, suspecting that he was hallucinating or dreaming. Chapter 70, A Complete Victory. Everyone stared at the 5 antiques that Yi Wuliang had destroyed with lightning speed. The shopkeeper knew that Yi Wuliang had chosen the right ones, but the others didn't. After a short silence, everyone looked up at the shopkeeper with a questioning look on their faces. No. This is impossible, this is impossible. I must be hallucinating. This is definitely a hallucination. The shopkeeper of Tonggu Pavilion was pale, his hands clutching his head, shaking his head frantically. Seeing his appearance, everyone was shocked. No one is a fool who can survive in the antique street. At this moment, everyone could tell from his reaction that Yi Wuliang had made the right choice. The 5 antiques he smashed should be the 5 fake antiques. My mother, did he choose the right one? No, is it that strange? This can't be a dream. It really took less than half a minute. What is this young man's background? Is he a fairy? Everyone exclaimed in shock, all with a look of horror on their faces. Chen Wu's eyelids were twitching and his scalp was numb. He was about to go crazy. Impossible, this is absolutely impossible. Boss, you have to tell everyone that the 5 pieces he destroyed were not fakes. Tell everyone that the fakes are something else. Hurry, tell everyone. Chen Wu roared with a hideous expression. Plop! The shopkeeper of Tonggu Pavilion collapsed on the ground, revealing a smile that was 10 times uglier than crying. Chen Wu was struck by lightning. He could tell from the shopkeeper's ugly smile that Yi Wuliang had probably chosen the right items for all 5 of the items he had destroyed. Impossible, this is impossible, fake, this is all fake. You're cheating, you little brat is cheating. Suddenly, Chen Wu pointed at Yi Wuliang and shouted angrily, "You must be cheating, otherwise how could you have chosen the right one so quickly? Kid, you are so cunning and shameless." Cheating? Yi Wuliang almost burst out laughing when he heard this. He looked at Chen Wu with contempt. Chen Wu, are you okay? If you can't take losing, then don't play with me from the beginning. Since you've played, you have to accept the consequences of your actions. You say I cheated, but then you have to produce evidence. Do you have any evidence? Do you have any witnesses or evidence? Can you produce it? Yi Wuliang said mockingly. You are cheating. If you are not cheating, how could you select these fake products in just a dozen seconds? Chen Wu roared and argued. Can't I be gifted? Can't I be born with the ability to distinguish the age of antiques?
Yi Wuliang said nonsense. But when he said this, he really stunned everyone. Yi Wuliang stretched lazily and said indolently, Chen, according to our agreement, you have now lost.
Do you remember what you have to do?
Chen Wu's forehead bulged with veins and a raging fire of anger burned in his chest after hearing Yi Wuliang's words. He and Yi Wuliang had agreed in advance that if he lost the bet on antiques, he would smash his new car to pieces in public, and he would do it himself. Chen Wu never thought he would lose, and lose so completely. The competition had not even begun, and it was already over. His car was worth tens of millions, and that was nothing to Chen, but the important thing was face. If he smashed the car in public, he would really become a laughingstock from then on. Chen, not only is the car going to be smashed, don't forget, just now, an additional 500 million was added to the bet. Now, transfer me 500 million first, and then go smash the car. Yi Wuliang laughed. On hearing this, Chen Wu almost spat out a mouthful of old blood. The people around him looked at Chen Wu subconsciously, their eyes full of sympathy.
Chapter 71, Furious and Distraught.
At this moment, Chen Wu tightly covered his heart, forcibly suppressing the anger in his heart. He looked up at Yi Wuliang with bloodshot eyes, so angry he wanted to spit blood. Chen Wu, you better pay up and then go smash your broken car, don't pretend to be a coward here.
If you're not satisfied, then continue to compete with my son-in-law.
If you don't have the guts to continue, then you should pay the money and smash the car.
Are you fucking pretending to be a grandson here?
Seeing his resentful look, Chen scolded him without any courtesy. Chen Wu clenched his fists and his forehead veins bulged.
What, even I don't agree with you?
Ha, you idiot.
Chen said with contempt. Chen, shut up.
Chen Wu could not stand it anymore, and shouted angrily.
He pointed his finger at Chen and said, I didn't lose to you, so what are you so proud of? If you have the guts, you can fight me.
I'll fight you?
Ha ha. You can't even beat my son-in-law, and you want to fight me? What are you? Are you good enough?
Chen said leisurely with his arms crossed, completely ignoring Chen Wu's face. As soon as he said this, Chen Wu, who was already on the verge of an explosion, could no longer bear it. He suddenly spat out a mouthful of blood, so angry that he almost fainted where he stood.
Oh, that's terrible.
Yes, Chen is so unlucky.
The young man, what kind of monster is he?
He is really too strong in the field of antiques gambling. Chen encountered such a god-level opponent and lost miserably.
The onlookers all sympathized and started talking.
Yi Wuliang put his hands in his pockets and turned to look at the manager of Tonggu Pavilion. He didn't say anything, but then he picked up 5 fragile items and destroyed them again. The difference is that the 5 pieces just now were fakes, but the 5 pieces he destroyed now are genuine.
We agreed that if I succeed, I can take 5 authentic pieces with me, right? I won't take the real ones with me. I'll just destroy them. That's not a violation of the rules, is it?
Yi Wuliang looked at him with a smile. The shopkeeper of Tonggu Pavilion fell to the ground, unable to speak. At this moment, all he could think about was regret. He regretted betting against Yi Wuliang, and he wanted to smack himself in the face. If he had kept his mouth shut, he wouldn't have gotten into this mess. The 5 fake items were worth a lot of money, and it was a pity to destroy them. Now that he had lost 5 genuine items, the feeling of pain was indescribable. Yi Wuliang ignored him and returned his gaze to Chen Wu. Son-in-law, this guy definitely won't be willing to smash the car himself, so let's not make it difficult for him.
Just let my men do it, he said.
Chen waved his hand. Immediately, several people in the dark who were responsible for protecting him appeared. Chen waved his hand and said, you go and smash Chen Wu's car for me.
Smash it to pieces, just smash it to scrap.
Upon hearing this, all of his bodyguards walked out of the Tonggu Pavilion, found some tools, and then began to smash Chen Wu's car. Chen Wu rushed out like a madman, watching his beloved car being smashed from afar, and couldn't help but cry out to the sky, feeling that he was suffocating to death. Soon, he watched helplessly as his car was smashed to pieces. The doors were all removed and smashed flat, the tires were removed, the engine was violently disassembled, the car windows were all smashed, and the car frame was also smashed flat. This is no longer a luxury car worth tens of millions, it is completely a scrap metal frame.
Yi Wuliang, you wait for me. Chen Wu roared, turned his head and looked at Yi Wuliang.
His eyes were bloodshot and bloodthirsty, like a wounded beast. Wait for your uncle, you still owe me 500 million and don't try to renege on the debt.
Yi Wuliang walked over to Chen Wu and said lightly. Poof.
Chen Wu could no longer bear it, and once again he vomited blood and fainted.
Chapter 72, Late Night Operation. Chen Wu was so angry that he vomited blood and fainted. The audience gasped in shock. Oh, how could you faint? You still owe me 500 million. He's not going to renege on the deal, is he? Yi Wuliang shouted.
Don't worry, don't worry. You can run away, but you can't escape the temple.
The Chen family is so wealthy, how can they not pay their debts?
Hey, Chen Wu's men, quickly take your master to the hospital. When he wakes up, tell him to transfer the 500 million to my account as soon as possible, otherwise I will charge interest by the hour.
Shen Yi crossed his arms and said leisurely.
Yi Wuliang felt that something was wrong, and after thinking carefully, he looked at Chen Yi. Uncle Shen, this money shouldn't be transferred to my account.
Hey, we're family, it doesn't matter who gets the money.
You're still young, and you might not be able to handle so much money. So I'll put it in your account first, and when you and Huo Wu get married, I'll give it to you.
Are you afraid that I won't pay you back? Shen Yi said seriously. Yi Wuliang was speechless. He felt that as soon as the money entered Shen Yi's account, it would definitely be a case of a meat bun hitting a dog, and there would be no return. He wanted to say something, but Shen Yi interrupted him. Okay, don't say anything. I'm your father-in-law. Do you still doubt that I, your father-in-law, would be greedy for this measly 500 million? You actually think I'm that kind of person?
Oh, that hurts. I guess I'll have to reconsider your relationship with Huo Wu. As he said this, Shen Yi began to sigh.
Yi Wuliang really
wanted to find a piece of tofu to beat this shameless father-in-law to death.
You are an elder, why are you so shameless?
He smiled wryly.
500 million is nothing to Yi Wuliang. He just thought of it as an early gift to his father-in-law.
At this time, Chen Wu's personal bodyguard had already carried Chen Wu away and sent him to the hospital as soon as possible.
Let's go for a walk. Let's find a place to drink, and we won't come back until we're drunk. Shen Yi was in a good mood and tapped Yi Wuliang on the shoulder to make an invitation. Soon, they arrived at a restaurant at the end of the antique street.
The two entered the private room and began to eat and drink after the dishes were served.
After 3 rounds of wine and 5 flavors of food,
Shen Yi was drunk and passed out, while Yi Wuliang was not drunk at all. After all, he was a cultivator and had a high level of cultivation. If he didn't want to get drunk, no one could get him drunk.
In the afternoon, Yi Wuliang sent Shen Yi home and returned to his own residence.
Before he knew it, night had fallen and Shen Huo Wu was still working overtime at the company. Because this afternoon, the military doctor of the Huangfu family directly issued a 2 billion annual drug contract to the Shen Group's pharmaceutical company, and from then on, the Shen family's pharmaceutical group would supply drugs to the military.
This is a great opportunity for the Shen family.
Especially being able to cooperate with the military, not to mention the 2 billion annual contract, which will make them earn a lot of money, just by virtue of the gold signboard of cooperation with the military. It is enough for Shen's pharmaceutical company to attract many new partners and contracts. Because of the military order, Shen Huo Wu has been working overtime today, attending meetings one after another, emphasizing to the company's senior management that the military order must be handled well and that no disclosure is allowed. She didn't leave work, and Li Qingyi stayed with her at the company.
In the courtyard of the city village, Yi Wuliang was alone. The moon is at its zenith, 10 p.m.
Yi Wuliang left the courtyard, but he didn't go to the Shen Group, but instead headed straight for the antique street.
He went to the restaurant where he had dinner with Shen Yi during the day. He didn't enter the restaurant, but went to the back of it. This time, the restaurant was already closed.
Yi Wuliang jumped lightly and entered the restaurant through the window. At the moment he jumped up, the window, which had been tightly locked, opened very smoothly and automatically.
After Yi Wuliang entered the private room, the window closed by itself.
All of this happened in an instant, and no one saw it at all. After entering the restaurant, Yi Wuliang's face revealed an extremely excited, even extremely excited expression.
Chapter 73, Lotus from the Center of the Earth. In the restaurant's private room, Yi Wuliang took a deep breath to suppress the excitement in his heart. He walked down the stairs and went straight to the basement of the restaurant.
The next second, he slammed his hands down on the ground, and the wind from his palms was like a giant sword that tore a bottomless ravine in the ground in an instant. This trench was several meters long, extending from one end of the basement to the other. The depth was bottomless, like an abyss. Yi Wuliang tore open the ground and jumped down without thinking. Soon, he was underground, stepping on the ground. At this moment, he was already 100 meters underground. After landing, Yi Wuliang once again used the same trick, tearing open the ground and continuing to fall. After 3 consecutive times, Yi Wuliang had already gone deep underground, in an underground natural cave. Ah, the lotus flower of the center of the earth. It really is the scent of the golden lotus from the center of the earth. I was right when I sensed it during the day. Yi Wuliang's eyes lit up. The reason he came here late at night was to find the golden lotus. When he was drinking with Shen Yi during the day, Yi Wuliang vaguely sensed a special energy fluctuation in the restaurant. This energy fluctuation was extremely weak, and even Yi Wuliang would not have noticed this subtle energy fluctuation if he had not sensed it by chance. Underground cave. Yi Wuliang's eyes were like a pair of sharp daggers. Even though it was pitch black in the cave, it was bright as day in his eyes, and it did not affect his vision at all. He walked deeper into the cave. The deeper he went, the more he could sense the energy fluctuations of the golden lotus of the earth's core, which made Yi Wuliang extremely excited, and his body trembled with excitement. Soon, as he passed through a corner, the golden lotus appeared before his eyes. Yi Wuliang was so excited that he almost jumped up in place. Not far in front of him, the golden lotus of the earth was emitting a golden glow, and the energy fluctuations that made the soul feel comfortable were constantly coming. My dear, precious treasure, the golden lotus that has been extinct for hundreds of years has actually appeared here, and there are even 3 of them. Good, good, good. Yi Wuliang shouted in excitement. There was an underground river less than 5 meters away. 3 golden lotus flowers were blooming on the river surface. The largest one was almost ripe, as big as a basketball, and the other 2 would take some time to bloom, but they were no less impressive than the first one. They were just not as golden in color, a little dull, and would need to grow for a while before they could turn completely golden and mature. Look at these 3 golden lotuses from the center of the earth. Yi Wuliang was so excited that he couldn't speak coherently. He was overjoyed and ecstatic. He was so excited and thrilled that his body was shaking uncontrollably. He never dreamed that he would be so lucky as to encounter the earth lotus, which had been rumored to have been extinct for hundreds of years. This was truly a stroke of luck, a blessing from heaven. The reason he was so excited was because of the curative effects of the earth lotus. This earthly golden lotus cannot make people live longer, nourish the body, or increase cultivation. But the earth lotus has a power that no other natural treasure possesses, and that is to enhance spiritual power. According to ancient records, after the lotus flower matures, it only needs to be taken as a lotus flower petal to enhance spiritual power. If it is refined into a pill, the effect is even better. Yi Wuliang's cultivation has reached the supreme realm. Throughout the ages, the highest realm. However, his spiritual power was lacking. It wasn't that Yi Wuliang was lazy and didn't cultivate his spiritual power, nor was it that he didn't have the talent for it. It was simply that there was no way to cultivate spiritual power in the world. The only way to increase spiritual power is to rely on certain natural treasures. However, in the long course of history, because cultivators collected and used them without restraint, and the vitality of the world became thinner, far less than in ancient times, all the spiritual medicines that could enhance spiritual power have disappeared. This has caused the spiritual power of people in later generations to stagnate and unable to increase. But now, the long-lost, extinct golden lotus has appeared before me, and there are 3 of them. Who wouldn't be excited? What's more, according to ancient records, the earth's golden lotus ranked first among all spiritual medicines for enhancing spiritual power, and its effect was so overwhelming that it crushed all other treasures of heaven and earth. It has to be said that Yi Wuliang's luck is truly against the heavens to be able to encounter such a treasure. Chapter 74, Endless Mysteries. Underground Cave. Yi Wuliang looked at the 3 earth-hard golden lotus flowers and laughed for several minutes before stopping. According to ancient records, the realm of the golden lotus must reach at least the level of a martial arts emperor before it can be taken, otherwise the meridians will be damaged or even the body will die violently. But I am already a supreme being. I have long surpassed the emperor level. Taking this earth heart golden lotus, refining and absorbing it, is completely without any problems or difficulties. Yi Wuliang said, and then laughed happily again. Even though the threshold for taking the earthly golden lotus is extremely high, for Yi Wuliang, it is basically zero difficulty, with no threshold at all. Spiritual power. It is a thing of infinite use. As long as spiritual power can be enhanced, it is equivalent to opening a door to a new world for practitioners. First of all, take alchemy as an example. Yi Wuliang's alchemy skills have already reached the pinnacle of a 6th grade alchemist. After reaching the 6th grade alchemist, he was unable to make any further progress. The reason he can't improve and can't make 7th grade pills is simple: his spiritual power is not strong enough. If the alchemist does not have a strong enough spiritual power, his highest achievement will only be a 6th grade alchemist. In ancient times, there were many natural treasures that could enhance spiritual power, so it can be said that high-level alchemists were born in abundance at that time. However, with the extinction of the elixir that enhances spiritual power, there are very few high-level alchemists in the world. Except for a very small number of lucky ones, 1 in 100 million, who are born with stronger spiritual power than ordinary people, and who can break through to the 7th level by chance after embarking on the path of alchemy. For the rest of the alchemists, even if you have the talent to defy the heavens, the highest achievement is only 6. As for alchemists above the 7th rank, in the last few hundred years, not even one has appeared. The highest grade is only 7. But if his spiritual power improves, Yi Wuliang can completely break free in a very short time with his talent for alchemy that defies the heavens. He could become the first alchemist to reach the 8th level in the last 300 or 400 years, and even reach the 9th level in a very short time, becoming a 9th level alchemist and refining 9th level pills. In addition to the grade restrictions, every time an alchemist makes a pill, it consumes a lot of spiritual power. It often takes several days, or even a month, to rest after making a pill. But if the spiritual power is strong enough, reaching several times or even 10 times the strength of ordinary cultivators, then alchemy is a piece of cake. Other alchemists can only make 2 pills a month, but if you have enough spiritual power, you can make 1 or even several batches of pills every day, without getting tired even if you work all year round. Moreover, because of the strength of your spiritual power, you will be able to control the details of the alchemy better, and the chances of success will be higher. However, the chance of success for a normal alchemist with normal spiritual power is only 30 to 40%, or even lower. The efficiency of one person is equivalent to that of several or even dozens of alchemists. Wherever you stand, you alone are worth the equivalent of an alchemist guild. This is the advantage of having a strong spiritual power. In addition to alchemy, in terms of combat, having a strong spirit is also a unique advantage, and its advantages can even be said to be against the heavens. The battle has begun. The enemy is still 100 meters away from you. When the battle is about to break out, you don't even need to get your hands dirty. You can just unleash a mental attack, relying on your powerful mental power to crush your opponent, giving them a headache so bad they'd rather be dead. You don't even need to fight, and you can easily win. Even if the enemy is at a higher level than you, they will still be unable to resist the invisible spiritual attack that comes and goes without a trace. At that time, in the midst of battle, you are the absolute god, crushing all enemies. Apart from alchemy and fighting, the enhancement of spiritual power. It is infinitely useful, and its mysteries are countless. It is like opening a door to a new world, allowing you to experience a completely different world and experience a different kind of excitement. Chapter 75, Sneak Attack. Ha! Yi Wuliang took a deep breath, gradually calming himself down. He suppressed his inner joy and walked towards the golden lotus at the center of the earth, ready to pick it. However, just as he was about to reach the golden lotus, a piercing sound came from the darkness, and a figure in black rushed towards him. Humph! I've been expecting you. Do you really think I don't know you're lurking in the dark, preparing to attack? As the shadow approached, Yi Wuliang sneered and raised his hand to slap the shadow. Boom! The shadow was instantly knocked into the air, and blood immediately spilled. The shadow crashed heavily into the cave wall and fell heavily to the ground. Yi Wuliang did not rush to pick the golden lotus from the center of the earth. After all, it was not yet fully ripe. He had just pretended to pick it, in order to lure the black shadow out of the dark. He turned his head to look at the shadow, which was not a human, but a huge giant rat, the size of a newborn goat, with golden fur all over.
A demon? A golden mouse?
Little guy, it's extremely rare for a gene rat to reach enlightenment, and it's even more difficult to cultivate to the 7th level.
Yi Wuliang slowly opened his mouth. That's right. This golden giant rat is a 7-star monster.
The levels of human cultivators range from low to high, in the following order: refining the bones, muscles and skin, refining the internal organs, refining the earth element, refining the heavenly element, master, martial king, martial emperor.
A 7th grade monster
Is equivalent to the level of a martial arts king. And this golden rat's realm is the pinnacle of the 7th rank, only one step away from the 8th rank of the emperor.
Gee, it's rare to see one, really rare. I've seen many golden rats, but you're the second one to have opened your spiritual mind. And that golden rat was only a 2nd grade monster, so it's far inferior to you.
Yi Wuliang said slowly.
Damn human, the golden lotus is mine. You dare to take it away? I will never let you go.
The golden rat king actually spoke in human language, and looked at Yi Wuliang with a spiteful gaze. He has been guarding the golden lotus here for 100 years.
100 years ago.
He was only a 5th rank golden mouse, but by chance, he discovered the golden lotus here and immediately guarded it. In the past 100 years, he has reached the peak of the 7th level of cultivation. The golden lotus was finally about to ripen, and he was not far from reaching the 8th level.
But at this critical moment,
Yi Wuliang appeared, and the golden mouse could not accept this.
Haha, little mouse, you actually still want to keep the golden lotus for yourself?
Yi Wuliang sneered. I discovered the lotus first, and I have been guarding it for 100 years.
It should belong to me.
The golden rat king roared. He glared at Yi Wuliang viciously, his golden fur standing on end like golden needles. He had just made a sudden attack, but Yi Wuliang had knocked him away with a single palm.
This made the Rat King wary. At the same time, he sensed a very dangerous aura from Yi Wuliang.
Otherwise, he would not have waited until Yi Wuliang approached the golden lotus before attacking, but would have killed him as soon as he appeared in the cave.
Human, if you leave now, I can let you live. But if you are still stubborn and try to take the golden lotus, then I will have to kill you and eat you as food.
The Rat King hissed in a low voice.
Ha 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 ha.
Yi Wuliang immediately burst into laughter. It was as if he had heard the biggest joke in the world. He was a supreme being in the world of the immortals, and yet he was being threatened by a little mouse. What a ridiculous thing. Little mouse, you are only a 7th level cultivator, and you dare threaten me with your king level realm.
Do you really think that I am afraid of you?
Yi Wuliang laughed wildly.
The next second, a sea of pressure suddenly erupted from Yi Wuliang. In an instant,
the golden rat king was struck by lightning, and his eyes were filled with terror as he looked at Yi Wuliang.
Ah, human, you are a martial emperor. No.
This aura, you are beyond the martial emperor level. The golden rat king was suddenly terrified. Before he could finish his sentence,
he turned and fled. He had just threatened Yi Wuliang, but after feeling Yi Wuliang's terrifying aura and realm, he was so scared that he immediately fled, not daring to stay for a second.
Chapter 76, Contract. Feeling the terrifying aura of Yi Wuliang, the Rat King was terrified and wanted to die. He didn't even think about it and turned around and fled.
There was no way around it. The aura was too terrifying.
At first, he thought it was the aura of the martial emperor, but then he realized that it was more than that.
That aura.
It must be at least the level of a king. Although he fled fast enough, he was still too slow in front of Yi Wuliang.
You think you can run away? Yi Wuliang snorted.
The majestic power fell like a mountain collapsing, and the golden rat king was immediately pressed to the ground, unable to move. Not to mention running away, now he can't even move his little paws. Little mouse, it is not easy for you to reach the 7th level of cultivation, not to mention that you have guarded the golden lotus for 100 years.
I can give you a chance to surrender to me,
Yi Wuliang said with a smile.
The next second,
the Rat King was in his hands, held by his neck like a doll.
You've been training in the wrong way. It's much harder for monsters to train than for humans.
You've been training on your own, and inevitably there are mistakes.
I can tell you this responsibly.
If you continue to practice in the way you are now, you will never reach the level of a king in your lifetime. But if you sign a demon contract with me and follow me, I can teach you a set of authentic demon training methods, allowing you to reach the Emperor level smoothly. Yi Wuliang said slowly. The Rat King did not say anything, but just looked at Yi Wuliang in horror. I'm going to take the Golden Lotus, but I can't use it all by myself. If you submit to me, when you reach the Emperor level, I can let you use the Golden Lotus with me, and your spiritual power will also soar. Yi Wuliang was persuasive. The Rat King was initially just scared, but after hearing this, he immediately became excited. You are telling the truth. You are really willing to share the Earth's core lotus with me, and not just for yourself? The Rat King was excited. Of course. Yi Wuliang nodded. Not only will I not monopolize it, I even have a way to cultivate the earthly lotus. In time, I can turn these 3 earthly lotus into 30 or even 300. Yi Wuliang was full of confidence. The methods of cultivating the earthly lotus are in the ancient books collected by one of his master's wives. There are at least 10 methods of cultivation. Unfortunately, the golden lotus has disappeared, and even if there are cultivation methods, there are no seeds to cultivate. Now that the living earth lotus is in front of him, Yi Wuliang can construct a spirit gathering array to attract the spirit energy. After the area is filled with more spirit energy, he can cultivate the earth lotus here, which will ensure the survival rate of the earth lotus and allow him to cultivate more earth lotus. By then, the number of earthly golden lotus will increase, and the time for them to mature will be shortened by dozens of times. It will only take a few years, or even less, for them to mature in large numbers. Okay, I am willing to sign a contract with you and submit to you. The Golden Rat King has the wisdom of a human being, and after weighing the pros and cons, he immediately made his decision. Yi Wuliang smiled in satisfaction. He let go of the Rat King, cut his finger, and drew mysterious runes in the air with his blood. Then the runes formed by the blood rushed into the Rat King's body. After a few minutes, Yi Wuliang and the Rat King established a unique connection, and the contract was officially reached. From this moment on, the Golden Rat King is now Yi Wuliang's loyal monster. Yi Wuliang can control the life and death of the Rat King through the contract. If the Rat King dares to betray him in the future, even if Yi Wuliang is thousands of miles away from the Rat King, he only needs a thought to kill him. Master. After the contract is established, the Rat King no longer thinks about escaping, and he crawls on all fours, making a bow. Then the Golden Rat King's body rapidly shrank. It eventually became the size of a hamster, no bigger than the palm of a hand, and hopped obediently onto Yi Wuliang's palm. The shrunken golden rat was plump and furry, and looked very cute. Yi Wuliang nodded with a smile, feeling very comfortable. With a 7th level demon beast by his side, he now had a martial arts king level younger brother. In the future, he could leave some things to the Rat King to handle, and he could save a lot of time and enjoy life even better. Chapter 77, The Terrifying Divine Light. Yi Wuliang looked at the golden-haired Rat King in his palm and nodded with satisfaction. Immediately, he suddenly smiled. Little mouse, are you a male? Hey, work hard, and when you reach the level of a king, I'll find you a female mouse to be your wife and you can have a litter of little mice. Yi Wuliang pinched his chin and said proudly. He thought to himself, I am really a good master, I worry about the happiness of my subordinates. As he spoke, he raised his finger and tapped the head of the golden-haired Rat King. Suddenly, a huge amount of information flooded into the Rat King's mind, and it was an authentic demon training method. Thank you, Master. When the Rat King realized that Yi Wuliang had taught him the method of cultivation, he immediately thanked him ecstatically. The next second, he jumped from Yi Wuliang's palm to the ground and grew bigger again. Master, I have something to offer you too, he said. The Rat King ran off, and when he came back, he was holding a box in his front paws and handed it to Yi Wuliang as if it were a treasure. Yi Wuliang opened the stone box and his pupils immediately contracted. Because there were dozens of golden lotus petals in the stone box. Master, there were originally 7 golden lotus flowers here, but because the aura here is not strong enough, the 7 golden lotus flowers absorbed it and gradually withered. One of them has already matured, but it is also doomed to wither and die. The petals in the stone box are those of the dead, mature lotus. I haven't reached the level of a king yet, so I can't take it, so I stored it. After 20 years, the energy in these petals has dissipated by half, but if you take them, they will still have a good effect. The Rat King whispered. Yi Wuliang sighed and looked regretful. Yes, although the energy here is rich, as the golden lotus grows and matures, it requires more spiritual energy, and the spiritual energy here is in short supply, so it is normal for a few to wither. I will set up a spirit gathering array tomorrow to ensure that the remaining 3, as well as the ones cultivated in the future, will not wither. Yi Wuliang said slowly, and then his eyes fell on the petals of the golden lotus in the stone box. According to the Rat King, this lotus flower matured 20 years ago, and began to wither after it matured. The Rat King then picked it and preserved it. 20 years have passed, and the energy has dissipated by half, but it is still of great use. If taken, it can also enhance mental power. Master, you are beyond the realm of the Emperor, you can take it, or, you take it first and refine it, I will protect you. The Rat King said with loyalty. Good. Yi Wuliang agreed. He first refined these, and when the remaining 3 were ripe, he refined them again. There was no upper limit to the effect of this thing, and refining these first would not have any adverse effects in the future. It's not that you can only use one lotus, and it's not that you can only refine it once to get the effect. As long as you have enough Earth Heart Lotus, you will get results no matter how much you refine it. However, as your spiritual power increases, the amount of earthly lotus you need to continue to increase your spiritual power will gradually increase. According to ancient records. In ancient times, cultivators cultivated a large number of earth lotus, frantically enhancing their spiritual power. Some of the strongest cultivators at the top of the pyramid had spiritual powers that were hundreds, or even thousands of times stronger. And every time they refined the lotus, they would change hundreds, even thousands, or tens of thousands of them. If they don't have enough to cultivate themselves, they will plunder everywhere. In fact, if there is a way to cultivate spiritual power, it can lead to extinction. In addition to the fact that the spiritual energy of the world has become thinner, the unlimited plundering and killing of cultivators is also an important cause of extinction. Taking a deep breath, Yi Wuliang sat cross-legged on the ground. He picked up the lotus petals of the Earth Heart Golden Lotus in the stone box, put them in his mouth, and then swallowed them. As the petals entered his stomach, Yi Wuliang began to refine them. At the same time, a faint golden light emanated from his body, as if he were bathed in the holy light of Buddha. As the petals of the golden lotus of the Earth's core were refined, Yi Wuliang's body produced a kind of energy that made his soul feel comfortable, quickly rushing into his brain, nourishing every inch of his brain, every corner, and even every nerve in his brain. As this special energy nourishes the brain, Yi Wuliang's spiritual power is rapidly increasing. I don't know how long it took, but finally he opened his eyes. As soon as he finished refining and absorbing, and opened his eyes, a terrifying aura shot out of his eyes. Chapter 78, A Worried Look. Time passed, and Yi Wuliang practiced for a long time before opening his eyes. As soon as his eyes opened, a golden light shot out of his eyes. He suddenly got up, feeling refreshed and his mind exceptionally clear. At this moment, Yi Wuliang's spiritual power has reached 5 times the strength of an ordinary person. It's just a lotus flower with incomplete energy retention, but it's already made my spiritual strength 5 times stronger. When this one matures, if I take the Earth's core golden lotus, which has sufficient energy reserves, then my spiritual power will reach 10 times that of a normal person. Yi Wuliang said to himself, his words tinged with a hint of anticipation and excitement. Now, his spiritual power is 5 times stronger. This 5-fold strength is enough to crush most realms in battle. In addition, 5 times the strength of his spiritual power is enough for him to break through to the 8th level of alchemist, and he can even barely refine some 9th level pills. Awesome, awesome, awesome. Yi Wuliang waved his fist excitedly and shouted in a low voice. Congratulations, Master. The Golden Rat King hurriedly flattered him. Yi Wuliang took out his cell phone. It was already 5 a.m. Rat King, you stay here and wait for me to come back for you. Yi Wuliang gave a few instructions and then returned to the surface. He quickly repaired the ravine in the basement, and from the surface, it could only be seen that there was a slight crack in the ground. No one would have thought that it led directly to an underground cave. After Yi Wuliang repaired the ground, he left the restaurant. It's dawn. Yi Wuliang waited until the restaurant opened and then came directly to buy the restaurant. At first, the owner didn't want to sell, but Yi Wuliang directly offered tens of millions of dollars, and the owner immediately expressed his excitement, saying that from today on, the restaurant would belong to Yi Wuliang. After buying the restaurant, Yi Wuliang immediately dismissed the staff and gave them an extra 3 months' salary as a severance package. Yi Wuliang set up many formations in the restaurant to prevent people from breaking in. After doing all this, Yi Wuliang went deep underground again, setting up a spirit-gathering formation underground to absorb the essence of heaven and earth, so as to ensure that the underground cave was full of spiritual energy, helping the growth of the lotus in the center of the earth and preventing the lotus from withering again. After all this, Yi Wuliang began to cultivate the golden lotus at the center of the earth. Because there is limited nourishment now, he will only cultivate 5 plants at first, and observe whether they can survive. After all this, it was already late at night. Yi Wuliang left the restaurant, and with him, the golden-haired Rat King. The restaurant was already closed and had been set up with many formations. Now, even if the martial emperor broke in here, he would be killed in an instant, so there was no need for the golden-haired Rat King to guard here. After leaving the restaurant, he returned to the courtyard. Yi Wuliang was surprised to find that Shin Huowu was still awake. He immediately sneaked into Shin Huowu's room. "Honey, I'm here," he said, and then suddenly pounced on Shin Huowu, throwing her onto the bed. He laughed evilly. "Honey, you're still awake at this hour. Are you waiting for me to come back and have a little fun with you? Humph, stop dreaming. Who wants to make out with you?" A hint of shyness appeared on Shin Huowu's tired face. She immediately glared at Yi Wuliang. "Stop it, Qingyi is right next door, she's already asleep, don't wake her up." "Well, but I'm very powerful. I can keep my voice down, but I'm afraid your voice won't be so quiet later. What should we do?" Yi Wuliang looked innocent. Shin Huowu didn't understand what he meant, and after staring blankly for 2 seconds, she realized what he meant and immediately blushed. Yi Wuliang didn't care about that, and directly put his hand into Shin Huowu's clothes, and kissed Shin Huowu heavily on the lips. This kiss. The two of them were like fire. They kissed each other like crazy. Ding dong. Suddenly, just when Yi Wuliang was burning with passion and Shin Huowu was also infatuated. On the bedside table, Shin Huowu's phone suddenly rang. Shin Huowu was suddenly awakened, and her whole body became clear. "Ah!" She screamed in shame and pushed Yi Wuliang away. You big bad guy, you bully me." Her face was flushed as if it were about to bleed. Yi Wuliang was about to say something, but Shin Huowu grabbed the phone, quickly connected the call, and ran outside to talk. Yi Wuliang pounded his chest in frustration. "Damn you! That bastard, calling at this time, deliberately ruining my good time." He was half dead with anger, cursing and swearing. But soon Yi Wuliang realized something was wrong. He ran into the courtyard to pick up the phone. Shin Huowu was frowning, looking worried, and his tone of voice was also a bit melancholy. After the call was over, Shin Huowu didn't go inside, but just stood in the courtyard with a worried look on her face. "What's wrong? Is something wrong?" Yi Wuliang also frowned slightly and walked outside the house after muttering. Chapter 79, The Tiger Gang. Yi Wuliang came to Shin Huowu's side, gently embraced her, and asked tenderly, "What's wrong? What happened? Why are you suddenly so gloomy?" Shin Huowu was hugged, but she did not resist, quietly snuggling in Yi Wuliang's arms. "Hey, the pharmaceutical factory caught fire and suffered heavy losses. It seems that someone deliberately set the fire, but they were not caught in the act." On hearing this, Yi Wuliang's expression sank slightly. Shin Huowu sighed. The pharmaceutical factory has always been unstable, and now that it has just been stable for a few days, something has happened again. And now, because of the Huangfu family, the military has just sent an order of 2 billion yuan a year. At this critical juncture, the pharmaceutical factory caught fire, which put enormous pressure on the production of subsequent drug orders. Shin Huowu said slowly, and he was very tired. Yi Wuliang took a deep breath and patted Shin Huowu on the shoulder. "It's okay, I'll handle it." He took out his cell phone and dialed a number. He was calling no one else but the little fat boy, Yunshan. "Boss." When he suddenly received a call from Yi Wuliang, Yunshan was very excited and emotional. Yi Wuliang didn't waste any time and got straight to the point. There was a fire at Shin's pharmaceutical factory. It looks like someone set it on fire. We just signed a contract with the military yesterday, and today there was a fire. This is obviously someone targeting us. Tell your grandfather to arrange for someone to help investigate what happened. Since we are going to investigate, we should find someone with strong intelligence network capabilities to carry out the investigation, so that we can investigate thoroughly. Therefore, Yi Wuliang directly asked the Huangfu family to help with the investigation. He believed that the Huangfu family would be able to solve the problem.
After listening to Yi Wuliang's words, Yunshan immediately patted his chest and said, "Don't worry, boss. I'll immediately tell my grandfather about it and try to give you an answer before dawn."
Okay, good.
Yi Wuliang promised and immediately hung up the phone.
Shin Huowu was lying in Yi Wuliang's arms, revealing her weak and helpless side. At the company, she is the iron-faced and selfless female president, and all matters are placed on her shoulders.
She is the mainstay of the company.
It was only in front of Yi Wuliang that she dared to show her soft and helpless side. Yi Wuliang hugged Shin Huowu tenderly and comforted her.
"Honey, is this a big deal? Don't worry.
I'll investigate it thoroughly. Don't worry about the drug order problem either.
First, I'll find out who's behind it.
Then I'll go straight to their door and make them pay for the damages, and then compensate the pharmaceutical factories, and the order problem will be solved." Yi Wuliang comforted her.
Shin Huowu just nodded silently, too tired to say much.
Yi Wuliang also stopped talking. He just rubbed Shin Huowu's head, as if he was holding his favorite doll.
No words all night.
Perhaps because she was exhausted, Shin Huowu did not get up at 7 a.m. as usual.
Instead, Yi Wuliang did not sleep all night,
waiting for the news that Yunshan had found out.
Finally, after waiting all night, Yunshan's phone rang.
"Boss, we've investigated and found out that the people who set fire to Shin's pharmaceutical last night were sent by the Jiangzhou City Tigers."
"The Tiger Gang?"
Yi Wuliang's brows furrowed tightly. This Tiger Gang sounds unfamiliar, and in Yi Wuliang's memory, he has no grudges against the Tiger Gang.
What does this Tiger Gang do? Is it in conflict with the Shin family? Is it specifically targeting the Shin family?
Yi Wuliang muttered.
"Boss, do we need to continue investigating?"
"All you have to do is say the word, and I'll lead the men to uproot the Tiger Gang and arrest their leader, who will surely tell us why he arranged for someone to set the fire," Yunshan said with great confidence.
"No need. I can handle this myself.
Just give me the address of the Tiger Gang and I'll go there myself," Yi Wuliang said coldly. As he spoke, a cold light flashed in his eyes.
"The Tiger Gang is doomed to bad luck."
Yunshan did not hesitate and sent Yi Wuliang the address of the Tiger Gang.
Yi Wuliang stood in the courtyard waiting. About an hour later, Shen Huowu and Li Qingyi got up one after another.
After they had finished washing up, Yi Wuliang told Shin Huowu the information that Yunshan had helped him investigate.
"I'm going to the Tiger Gang. What about you? Do you want to go to the company first, or?"
Yi Wuliang looked at Shin Huowu. Before he could finish his sentence, Shin Huowu hurriedly said, "I'll go with you. I want to confront the people from the Tiger Gang and ask them why they targeted the Shin group." Her brows were furrowed tightly. She knew very well the power of the Tiger Gang. However, the Shin group and the Tiger Gang have never had any problems or conflicts, so she really doesn't understand why the Tiger Gang suddenly had a problem with them and set fire to the Shin group's pharmaceutical factory.
"I'm fine too. I'll go with you too,"
Li Qingyi stretched and said in a lazy tone.
"Okay, let's go together.
I'll have two beautiful women on my left and right, and we'll go straight to the Tiger's den.
By then, I'm afraid the little henchmen of the Tiger Gang will be envious and jealous."
Yi Wuliang laughed and said, "Hee hee." Before he finished speaking, he then tightly embraced the two women on either side, and then proceeded to give them a passionate kiss.
Chapter 80, Unfriendly Visitors.
The Tiger Gang's lair was originally a club, but it was later banned. It is not far from the city center, and it is a quiet place in the middle of the hustle and bustle. Nowadays, it is not in business, and the core members of the Tiger Gang gather here when they are not busy.
At this moment,
in front of the club, several burly men were lounging on the outdoor sofa, leisurely drinking wine and bragging to each other.
Suddenly, one of them's eyes widened, staring straight ahead, as if he wanted to pop out of his head.
"Hey, you, look, a beauty, a beauty.
Damn, what a beautiful girl.
She's like a fairy from heaven," the man exclaimed with his eyes wide open, and stood up excitedly. The others heard this and subconsciously turned to look. After turning their heads, they all widened their eyes and stood up excitedly.
At this moment,
in their line of sight, the two beauties Shen Huawu and Li Qingyi were slowly walking towards them. It is not easy to meet such top beauties in everyday life, but today there are two of them, which immediately made everyone excited. So beautiful, where did these fairies come from?
brothers, are we seeing things? Are those two beauties real?
They are so beautiful, if I had a girlfriend like that, I would be willing to live 10 years less.
If I had a girlfriend like that, I could live 20 years less. Don't argue with me.
If these two beauties were my women, I would be willing to die tomorrow after a good time tonight. In an instant, all the men from the Tiger Gang let out a howl of grief and despair at the sight of the two beauties. Everyone's eyes were locked on Shen Huawu and Li Qingyi, completely captivated by them.
However, just when everyone was excited, someone suddenly shouted angrily, "Hey, that's not right. Look at the middle of those two beauties. How is there another man there?" As soon as this was said, the whole audience immediately fell silent. Everyone stretched their necks to see Yi Wuliang walking between the two women.
They were sure that there were only two stunning beauties, and there was no one else, but now a man had suddenly appeared from nowhere. And this man is walking between the two beauties.
What's more, the man is holding both beauties in one arm.
Ah, damn you, you son of a bitch. Let go of the two beauties immediately, or else I'll chop off your pig's feet.
Immediately, someone yelled at Yi Wuliang. Then, all kinds of voices sounded frantically.
Where did that kid come from? He's uglier than a pig, and he's got the nerve to walk with these two beauties. I'm 10,000 times more handsome than him, and these two beauties should be mine.
Damn, what does that kid have that he deserves it?
Everyone roared, and in an instant, they all looked at Yi Wuliang with bloodshot eyes of jealousy, wishing they could rush up and kill him 1,000 times over.
At the same time,
Yi Wuliang, who was leisurely walking here with the two women in his arms, immediately felt depressed and wanted to vomit blood when he heard what these people said.
"You bastard, these rough men actually dared to say that I don't look as good as a pig. As for my looks, I'm definitely more handsome than Edison Chen, and I'm better than Daniel Wu, right?"
Okay, quiet. Suddenly, a low voice came from somewhere. The people of the Tiger Gang, who were arguing, immediately quieted down.
At this time, a burly man stood up and his eyes fell on Yi Wuliang and the two women.
Compared to the other useless members of the Tiger Gang, who are brain-dead when they see a beautiful woman, this one is obviously much more sober.
After his eyes swept over the two women, he stared at Yi Wuliang. "Kid, who are you and what are you doing here in our Tiger Gang?"
the man said in a deep voice. Everyone was attracted by the two women, but he focused his attention on Yi Wuliang, thinking that this guy was up to no good.